Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.
Hello and welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel, and this is the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling podcast doing a recap and review of Money in the Bank 2022. How are you boys feeling?
Yeah,
Tired and all good. I'm between the two of you as well. I feel tired, but I do feel good. It was a late one. We don't want to moan about that all the time, but it was a late one. First, it felt like the pacing was going way quicker than I expected, and then they gradually slowed things down in the middle and made us stay up later than we hoped. It was daylight when I went to bed, boys.
Yeah, that's right. It's still very weird, isn't it?
Being a summer as well.
Saying that though, it wasn't too long after 4 though. To be fair, it's only about 3 hours.
Yeah, no, but I mean, listen to yourself, Lucas. When you're having to say it weren't too long after 4 a.m.
Because they spoiled us, didn't they, with the 12 a.m. start for so long?
I wish they went back to
get so used to, didn't we? The pre-shows being at 11 with a match as well, so it was like, okay, at least we can see some wrestling before midnight.
Not anymore. Gone are the days of the interesting things that they tried in this so-called pandemic era. But yeah, a lot to talk about either way. I mean, it was a jam-packed show. I've seen mixed feelings about this so far. People kind of shockingly didn't seem to like as many things I thought people would. I think this is, I wouldn't say like an amazing show, but I thought it was a really good show.
Yeah.
And I thought it was, maybe that's the content provider in me, thinking we've got a lot to talk about. Because I think it was a very newsworthy show. There's still things that they did that I'm like, I'm not sure about that. But as a package, it was an enjoyable show. And again, maybe a lot of that was from me going, wicked, we got stuff to talk about, rather than actually being happy about what I saw. But then again, I did enjoy a lot of what I saw as well.
Yeah, I think it's always going to be very hard to get this right because you're never going to please everyone. Obviously, I think the two main talking points are obviously the Money in the Bank winners, and obviously the result of obviously what we already know about one of those people. The women honestly cannot hold the briefcase for long, can they?
No.
Barely 2 hours after winning the briefcase, of course. One of the biggest moments really to come out of the evening was obviously Liv Morgan cashing in her contract on Ronda Rousey in what I just felt was the most awkward exchange of things ever. She just really politely handed the briefcase over, and then Ronda got in her ankle lock, and then she got rolled up and then shook her hand, kind of thing. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Ronda's taking a break, or Ronda's going to. I don't know. It just felt really odd, didn't it?
Very, very. I mean, it wasn't the only awkward thing on the night. We'll definitely get to that. And I think, well, that's probably a good place to start, really, because it was the opening match, and it was awkward at times. Now, I don't know. I don't want to be harsh here, but it was quite sloppy. And I've talked about this over the years that we've got to remember that it's just like women's football. It was held back for so long that the standard's not going to be where it could be. And things have got better with women's wrestling in so many ways. But to do a multi-person ladder match is a challenging thing anyway. And now a lot of these girls have been in the business for a long time and been in these matches before, and it's been fine. And the same thing happens with men. Don't get me wrong. There are spots that don't quite work out with the men. But it's more evident when certain people are thrown into these things a lot. You know, this one felt the more exciting for me because it was more fresh faces and that potential who's going to break through moment. But I think it led to a lot of clumsy moments. I don't want to single one out, but I think everybody knows this was a shocker for Shotzi, which was a real shame. Now, she's not getting pushed the way she was 6 months ago anyway. which is what makes it more upsetting to me on a human level.
She's
of
2 tag partners down, isn't she?
yeah, and she's lost her tank, and she's just lost the buzz around her, really. And this felt like a good way to get that back. And I really do feel for her. And again, I don't want to single her out because she wasn't the only one being sloppy here, but she had the most noticeable ones, and she was trending, and it weren't for good reason. And some of the things said online were harsh. Some of them, even when I tweeted saying, that was basically an uncomfortable watch at times, but at least we got a good thing to live at the end. I didn't want to single out Shotzi. Then I saw some funny memes and I retweeted them. So because we just kind of got to go with it. Again, I don't mean to be harsh. Everybody has a bad day at the office from time to time, but real struggle in this one for Shotzi Blackheart.
Yeah, it wasn't just her though. I think Raquel, surname I'm too sure. I can't remember now which one they've got. Raquel Gonzalez, Raquel Rodriguez. Double R. I felt that some of her stuff fell a bit flat. I'm assuming they're using the same ladders for the women as they are for the men, which I think might actually be a lot of the problems. Because in the nicest possible way, men are just bigger and stronger. And so we'll be able to move those ladders much more easier. Where I think of some of the ladies, they really struggle kind of moving the ladders about. And then
it's not so much the weight, it's the height as well. They're tall and they're, some of these are 5 foot, as we were saying yesterday as well. But
because I think Raquel Gonzalez's whole thing has been the strength thing, and all her strength stuff kind of failed because she couldn't really do much. There was that spot at the start when 2 women were on the ladder and she tried to lift it up, but she couldn't lift it. She couldn't lift it because
that was such an awkward spot.
Yeah,
it was so awkward. And I think it's because they were kind of far apart from each other as well. I think it was Becky and Liv. I think Liv they weren't even, and the way the ladder was leaning, another one, it was an uneven lift where she kind of needed them to, an even source. And that was the first kind of mistake that I noticed. And
but then it's saying that though,
double suplexing them on the ladder was cool, but they kind of saved it there. But
Becky though, with that weird arse drop she did off the ladder.
Oh, yeah. That looked more painful than going through that ladder.
It did, and she was too close to it. But Rob said it looked more painful.
Away from it.
Way too close.
I think the latter half was better potentially. But it did take a real long while to kind of get going. Bless them. The ladies all kind of tried, but it felt, I hate to say it, it just did feel sloppy. And I can't, I think the only person that really came out of it good maybe was Asuka. Becky's obviously always going to be a star, and obviously Liv Morgan, obviously. Potentially, to be fair, saved because of that cash-in, you could argue, to an extent. You could have kind of tied everything in neatly because she got a really good perception. To be fair, that's another thing I'll say about the show, actually. It's a really good perception for people last night in Vegas. The crowd were definitely very vocal with who they liked, who they didn't like, and were very receptive of certain things. Liv Morgan in particular got a very noticeable ovation when she won. So she probably was the right pick for the winner. And obviously Becky Lynch obviously almost kind of getting it. But I think that just shows that she knows, she knows, and we know, she doesn't need that. She's obviously already kind of in the main event picture. And this would be hopefully a nice way for Liv Morgan to get in the main title picture over on the SmackDown side of things. Feuding with people like Shayna Baszler, Shotzi, potentially even Natalya, I guess, because she could have a gripe, obviously, following what happened later on. What do you think, Rob?
Yeah, it was, as you said, the first half was a little bit clustery. There was stuff going on that it was just, I think they were trying to do too much to open up a match. I mean, as you said, it's still fresh for the women. I mean, this is only the fourth one. This is only the 4th one, right? Carmella won it twice. Asuka won it. Is that right?
No, there's been a few. Alexa Bliss.
Is there been Alexa Bliss?
Yeah,
all right, so this is about all right, so this is what, the 6th one? And I still think they're still trying to figure out what to do and how to work these spots for the women. Obviously, when we, even going back to way back when the first Women's Royal Rumble, there were so many spots when there were only 2 in the ring, and the rest rolled out underneath the bottom, and then they come back in again. There's so much to remember, and the guys have done it for so long. I mean, let's say starting with Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon, and obviously they started something, and then the Dudleys took over with the Hardys and Edge and Christian, and then it built up, and then the Money in the Bank, and they've got so much prestige and plans for it as men that now the women are trying to get in. They're trying to get the women involved to keep them on the same kind of wavelength. And I think there's moments where you got to remember they're still women. So the things that you're asking them to do at the moment are not impossible, but you've got to find another position to do it. As you said, ladders are going to be heavier. It can affect them in a different way. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm sure, is it women are bottom heavy and men are top heavy or something, or the other way around? So doing specific things on ladders isn't always going to be as easy with women than it is men and vice versa. So it's still a learning curve. Other than that, though, it was great. Like, I enjoyed it for what it was. Liv won. The pop for her winning was fantastic. You know.
Yeah, touching on pops and crowd noises and stuff like that, as Lucas said, Liv was getting massive reactions every time she got anywhere near it, and you know, you could tell, and you know, like the old John Cena reaction, where you can tell there's a higher pitch, you know, which will, you know, a lot of children and stuff like that as well, which is fantastic. Liv was exciting. Something I thought was quite interesting as well was Lacey definitely seemed like she was being a babyface.
Yeah.
She was acting up as a babyface, and then got booed as she got anywhere near the briefcase, and she still hammed it up and did this kind of pointing or whatever it is, and come on, let's go, while they're booing her, and it was a bit uncomfortable. But again, that's what happens when we don't know how you're presenting these characters. It's very, very confusing.
It's been 18 months, and again, like, she is suffering from the music problems. You know, I have to say this now, sadly, the music is awful in WWE at the moment. Like, on the most part, it's so bad. You honestly, I had no idea who was coming out for half those people. You know, but even Carmella, like, she had a theme like just last year, one that everyone kind of knew, and now she got like a new theme and no one knows what it is. You know, it's just, and then obviously Shotzi's theme's changed, and obviously Lacey Evans' theme changed. Like, it's just, the music is awful. Like, no one knows who's coming out, and then you don't know how to react to that person until they're kind of doing stuff. Because, like I said, Lacey Evans, you know, when we all last kind of saw her, she was going to have Ric Flair's baby, and was a villain going into WrestleMania. And then she's returned, and she returned at first with vignettes on the SmackDown side of things, saying that she was kind of going to be a villain, and then they turned her babyface when she came to television. And you're like, what?
You're right.
But this is where, like, sadly, like, it's going to be down to either her to get this over, as we have seen before, people push and persevere. I mean, people forget this, but remember the New Day, when they first debuted, they were hated, you know, like, but not for the right reasons. You know, they were hated. Now, obviously, 8 years down the line, you know, we're talking about them as probably one of the best tag teams that's ever done it. So if she's capable of doing it, like, if she wants to push and persevere with this, but it does seem like one of those characters that, for whatever reason, people just aren't going to take her as a babyface. Which I don't know if that messes up their plans at all. Probably say it wouldn't, because I guess we've got Bianca Belair and now Liv Morgan's both babyface champions, so they need to obviously have villain challengers. But potentially down the line, like, we need another babyface like Lacey. You'd have to imagine that kind of Lacey Evans and you know, a few others are kind of in that second place kind of slot. You know, for even when people get injured or, you know, want time off or more plastic surgery in the case of Charlotte Flair, I guess.
Well, with that second tier is kind of filled up by people like Carmella. Like, so I get what I mean. You can kind of switch someone in like Carmella when they moved out Rhea Ripley from that as well. But yeah, I think
Rhea Ripley injured then.
I don't know if it's legit, but they said it was. That's why she was replaced. So I'm not quite sure. I haven't kept up with it too much. But but Lacey should have been more than that. She was on her way to being more than that. So it'd be interesting to see where she goes from here. Going back to the match a bit more, though, and again, a few of these kind of awkward moments. Again, I don't want to single out Shotzi, but the run up and the slip, and that can happen to anyone. That's fine. But the one that was really troubling is when it just seemed like like when in life and anything, if you make a mistake, it's playing on your mind and you can make another mistake. That's what it felt like. And I just kept thinking, please, I know you're probably got these things lined up that you're supposed to hit and do, but I was like, sit on, like, pretend you've been knocked out for a few minutes, because she then went and did the one where she had
Alexa
Bliss, and they fed on a ladder. And again, the ladders are flimsy, like they fall awkwardly. It's not great. It looked good at first, and then when it kind of fell, I felt bad for her again. And then there was the one where she does the senton, which looked fantastic until you realize she hit the back of her head. And then later on, there's what appears to be smeared blood on her forehead, which you couldn't see a cut, so maybe she's kind of touched the back of her head and kind of moves it forward. But I felt really bad for her, because I do think she's someone with great talent, especially in NXT. She was a very exciting prospect. Coming to SmackDown, she was massively over. So
potentially should have kept her in the tag team, built her up a little bit. Obviously, it's just single star dominance.
But then it's going into these performances as well. It's all well and good having the machine behind you and selling t-shirts and having tanks, but you kind of need things to go right in the ring in the big moments when you aren't getting the shine. I remember years ago, when we were talking about Lucha House Party yesterday, like, I think it must have been that event or around that time. We were like, man, these guys need to be pushed. The Drew McIntyre famous incident where he goes mad in the Elimination Chamber, and it seemed like, oh man, he's kind of caught some attention there, and it didn't quite work out. But these are your opportunities. Sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. And sad it was a real miss for Shotzi on this one. But go on.
On the positive side, though, like, I think it was nice to see a card with like so many female performers on it, though. Like, obviously,
100%.
11 female wrestlers on the show last night, and then I guess if you include the backstage interviews, things like that, like, there's quite a lot of female inclusivity, and this is even still without obviously having both Sasha and Naomi walking, at the moment, status to be determined, I guess. Doudrop not on the card. I think who else they're missing. But yeah, there's still a fair few, really, you'd say, who aren't anywhere to be found. So I think it's testament that they have actually built up like quite a decent women's division. But it is just like we say, it's just getting more people into those main slots. And I'm hoping, Liv Morgan, like, she will campaign and use whatever kind of little influence she can now have to kind of spotlight that. Like someone like Doudrop, I think, honestly, she should be in the title picture. They need that division needs and wants a villain. Obviously you got Raquel Rodriguez, but I think she's babyface, isn't she? She's babyface, I think. But yeah, the division's always done, like, could have done with this. Like, I remember years ago when they had Karma, and we were like, yes, this is what we want. Like, the division needs this, like, just a different body shape, a different act that we can get behind. Obviously, that situation obviously didn't happen. They had success, obviously, with like the Glamour Zone of Beth Phoenix, obviously, for the most famous example, I guess, of a kind of powerhouse kind of woman. But we never really had, like, in the 90s, you had like Bertha Faye, I guess, but she was face anyway. But you never really had this monster villain.
Only Nia, but then I think she came in at not the wrong time. But as you said, we had Karma.
The problem was she wasn't very good, though.
Yeah, this is the thing. We had Karma, right? And then she come out, and the women's wrestling just wasn't at the level what it is now. It was getting to that point. And as you said, there's no Monster Hill. So someone like Doudrop would be great, but you couldn't take Doudrop serious as a Monster Hill with the name Doudrop. There'd have to be a drastic change. Like, and this is that issue again. We want something to change to make it better. But they're too happy set in their ways and don't want something to change because they're happy with the way it is. And it's that big problem again. As you said, that a Monster Hill would be fantastic in the women's division right now. Literally someone to come in and just knock them all down. Not Roman Reigns-esque, but just plow through everyone and, like, be menacing.
You could build up to that. Do you know what I mean? With like Survivor Series coming up.
Yeah.
You could build up to that. With obviously basically take the giant down, essentially.
Exactly.
Simply like what they're doing with Omos. With the They build up to big moments where people have to take Omos out. And they get really good reactions because they're built up. And Omos's job is to be terrifying. He does it really, really good. And I think they can do it, the women. And it's just obviously just to make it different from every month essentially having to be, the same 4 women either facing each other or like just facing someone who like you say, the predictions wise, like it's so hard, just like not hard, but so easy. Like every month, you just feel a bit like, oh, well, of course Bianca will win because she'll only ever lose to obviously, Becky, Bayley, Sasha. Like she's not gonna, she's not gonna lose to Carmella.
Mm.
And I think, do you know what though? I think in order for that to happen, let's say for example, Bianca did lose last night to Carmella, we would have been like, well, what happened? And then we'd have a reaction. So I think in one way, yes, okay, like build them up. And as you said, we have a second kind of tier of women. But I think at times for the women's division, because it's so different to the men's, that second tier should have that shock victory, because then it puts us in the perspective of, oh, damn, like they can win. Carmella could beat her.
The thing is that this is where they could have utilised, obviously, the tag team belts to obviously showcase and spotlight some women. Again, I mean, Zelina not on the card. Nikki ASH, last year's winner of that briefcase.
Oh, wow, yeah.
But they could have utilised the women's tag belts as that secondary division to give. So you have the women who don't get those main title shots moments. But obviously now without those belts, and let's be real, like they ain't coming back. It's been months now, and they loosely announced some sort of tournament, but they've got no tag teams. They fired them all. So, they're going to have to just be like, here's random women fighting.
Yeah.
Honestly, they should do like some sort of maybe cup or bring back the king and queen of the ring maybe for it. Because I think the women just need something else other than just those main titles, because it feels like to a lot of them are not obtainable, or the booking needs to change. And obviously something which I know I've kind of fantasy booked a bit with the Natalya Ronda thing, but like, why is it so difficult to give people just like a month title and like one show done? Like, not obviously every single month, but like just to make it a bit more exciting. Because now, like, we know for a fact that Bianca's only losing that belt to Becky, Sasha if she comes back, or Bayley, or Charlotte. Sorry, like pretty much those are the only 4, or Ronda actually. So 5 women. Yeah, one of those 5 women. And Liv Morgan, probably the same thing. She will lose to one of those 5 women down the end of the road. And then we'd still be saying, oh, but like they could have built up Doudrop and all that time. Because the thing is, like people like Charlotte, Asuka, Asuka's in there as well, I guess. There are 6 of them, I guess. Ronda, like, they don't need belts. They don't need to be in every single championship match. Same thing we're saying for the men, like the Brock and Roman stuff. Like, they don't need to be... Like, Brock can be used in other ways. Like, it doesn't need to be in every single World Championship match. But they're going back to that same well because that's all they've got. Because they won't put anyone else in those spots, or at least even take a chance. Even bring back 24-hour title reigns. I remember when Zack Ryder won the ladder match at WrestleMania. Got a massive pop at WrestleMania. It just bounced back the next night on Raw. Same thing with Hawkins and Ryder again.
Yeah.
They won the tag belts at Mania. Then, well, to be fair, it was bad. They didn't put them on TV for about a month, but then they just lost them on the first defense. But like, you don't always need, like, I don't know what it is. They're just obsessed with every single title reign has to just be like 5 years now. Like, it's just, yeah. I mean, obviously, this is the lesser of two evils. Obviously, the main evil obviously is the whole Roman Reigns stuff, which, to be fair, I just feel we're left with more questions than answers after what did happen in that match.
Right. Well, going back to what you said about those certain names that basically, like you say, they're not shaking it up. They could go into a secondary feud. And like Asuka, even when she wins the title, it kind of goes nowhere. And that was an interesting one for me last night as well. She's one of those people that got major cheers when she was getting close to Money in the Bank briefcase. So there's still so much more they can do with these women. Yeah, but anyway, we've spent a long time talking about this match. We should probably move on to one of the other ones. I don't think we'll be going that deep into some of these others. But yeah, let's move on to the next match then. That was Money Back. We haven't even really mentioned the fact it was such a big crowning moment for Liv, but that's because obviously she cashes in. Spoiler alert, we'll talk about that later on when we really get into the whole Liv this night really was about crowning Liv, in my opinion. So let's move on to the next match that we saw. Just like on the build-up show, we do have a video from Dan, but it's individual videos. We've got one kind of a complete video with his kind of rough thoughts of the entire show, which we'll play once we've gone through this as well, and then kind of recap once we close out here. But we'll move on to the next match anyway, which was Theory versus Bobby Lashley for the United States Championship. A really enjoyable match, and we were mentioning yesterday, and again, this is another one where we're like kind of not going to talk too much about Theory because that comes up later on. Again, spoiler alert, but for the match itself, really, really enjoyable, and I think it was a match that did show Theory in a way that we wanted him to be seen yesterday when we were saying, right, yeah, he's clearly chosen, but what's he been doing, And I think this is one of those memorable matches where ironically it's going to be forgotten about a bit because he had a bigger moment, you could say, later on in the night. But for a match, if this was on a pay-per-view, PLE, on its own, we'd be going, remember that match with Lashley? I think a lot more than we're going to in future because of, what he did at the end of the night. But for me, really, really enjoyed this. A great athletic match, the combinations, the reversals and things like that they had between the two of them. And of course, that even goes all the way into the end with a final sequence as well. A-Town, down into the Hurt Lock. It's just fantastic. And great for Bobby. Deserves the title. We said it yesterday. He is definitely on the streak. And this is why I predicted that Bobby would win, because I was like, I think Bobby Lashley, the man, needs to be rewarded. And Bobby Lashley, the character, needs to be kind of pushed to the moon again, especially if you're not rocking around with two separate main world champions at the moment. So over to you guys. What did you think of this athletic combination-based competition that we saw last night?
It was good, man. It was, when I see it, I was like, do you know what? Potentially this could be match of the night. The way the storytelling in the match, having Bobby come out really quickly, just the dominance that he showed to Theory right at the beginning was so impressive. Everything about it, the way it was done, it was so good. And then the tables turned. Theory got the upper hand. And do you know what I mean? It was such a good back and forth. And there was times, especially later on in the match, where all of a sudden I felt like Lashley was the underdog for a second because of the way they told it. And I never thought I'd see him in that kind of light other than against a big guy like Brock or Roman or Drew or something. But to see him have a really good match like that, I think this is probably the best match he's had this year. I really do. I mean, his whole presence in this match it showed what he can do. And as you said, if he's being pushed to the moon because there's a unification in titles, then if you haven't got Cody, then Bobby Lashley, he's got to be the next person in line, surely. Like, it was so good. But yeah, the finish with even Theory doing Lashley's spear and flipping through it, rolling through and going into the finisher and like being able to pick him up and.
Mate, I loved the one where he rolled into Lashley picking him up into the Dominator, some sort of slam.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it was so
and
good. Seeing Lashley work that style, like, we know Lashley is athletic, but he's a great athlete, but he still a lot of time gets put in that box of muscle man will do big power moves. But the fact, the way he moved, incredibly with Theory in this was it was just beautiful thing to see.
It was.
Yeah, like Lashley, I think it's just a star. I think his whole new his whole new entrance thing.
Yeah.
The way that they present him and talk about him, the way he carries himself, like he's just, it's just so happy, like good to see. Like it's this mental thing. Obviously, he left the company in the mid-2000s under not the best terms, really. Then when obviously made himself a name elsewhere and always forever chased that dream of getting the Brock match, even when obviously you interviewed him, as we mentioned a couple of times on the channel, perhaps. And then obviously this kind of year just feels like he's the definition of hard work paying off, essentially. Because he was able to return to the company, that made him a household name, and is at the point now where he's almost ready to eclipse this company because he's just so good. you know, and you have to kind of forget that he's in his 40s this time round. You know, he's not obviously the young athlete that he was once. But yeah, like you said, the transitions, the way they work together, dynamic of the match, like it was very old school. You know, like I think they're going through this phase now where whoever's producing some of these matches, like they are looking back at old kind of matches. I think this match and even like elements of obviously the Hell in a Cell that Cody and Seth had, very old school feels to them. Do you know what I mean? Of the storytelling, and I think this was perfect. Like, you know, Theory avoided the hell out of Lashley's spear all match. Made it feel to us like if he hits that spear, I'm going to have to retire. That's like how bad. You know what I mean? That's what he was doing.
Yeah, you're right.
Showcasing that, and obviously then when he finally hit it himself, it was like, oh wow, like maybe this might have an effect. And then obviously, yeah, the whole like Lashley's strength is just like second to none. Like it's insane. I know he stumbled a bit when he didn't catch him off the apron, but he just got him back up again, didn't he? And just like did the move anyway. And I love that move, and it's so nice because it works extra because it's one of those moves, those rare times the actual LED posts actually make a move look more devastating or more like impressive, you know. Like it's that, and when like people use it like a platform, you know, like dives and stuff off because it's like, you know, it looks like really like, you know, kind of big. But yeah, and I thought this match was really, really good, and I think obviously we have to get to Theory a bit later on this, as there's more to unravel with this. But I think in terms of this match, this performance, yeah, I'm with Rob. It probably was both of their like best matches that I've seen to date, like this year at least. And I think Lashley obviously is, as far as I'm concerned, this company's number one male babyface now because of the absence.
It has to be.
Of obviously Cody and Randy Orton at present. I'd argue Riddle was up there too.
Of course, yeah.
You know, but I think the reception to Lashley, and like we just touched upon yesterday, like he was people's lockdown champ. You know, he was the champ for COVID. Like he got people through that time. People will remember that for a long time. A long time. You know, as much as we're obviously doing much better now, like there was a time where we thought that we wouldn't go back to doing this. We wouldn't go back to seeing this again. You know, we thought we'd been in the Thunderdome forever.
Horrible thought.
But yeah, like I think also as well, even like the commentary team, they're really putting over Theory as a big deal.
Yeah.
And this also helps with this obviously having less matches thing. Like someone put up something about obviously, you know, even we spoke yesterday about the SummerSlam card from a few years ago, and like from a few years ago, 2002. But you know, they had about 10 matches on. They've had loads of cards where there's been loads of matches, but by streamlining these matches down, I think we are kind of getting what they actually want to present on pay-per-view. You know, not just because we got all these belts, we got all these people. Though it would be nice to see them kind of shake the mold up a little bit. Yeah, like I'm honestly think we're gonna have to all be dead in the ground before they ever put a Intercontinental Championship match on a pay-per-view. At this point, like, I
don't understand why they're not either. Because I mean, you know, at the moment, Gunther or whatever you want to call him, dude.
Especially again now that we ain't got Roman on the pay-per-view, so
he's killing it.
If it weren't for the Money in the Bank, we would have really needed to have some sort of, you know, because Money in the Bank is a draw for this, you know, like the title shot. Same as at the Rumble. Title matches aren't usually as big, but
like, I know it's bad and it becomes like a pre-show thing, but I just think, is it going to be that much of a killer just to be like, look, just give Gunther a title defense to the pre-show?
Even if you just destroyed R-Truth in 3 minutes, do you know what I mean? Like it was, and it was a title match. Yeah, exactly. I think. And it's an easy thing to do. It's not hard to kind of... But again, I do feel like they are moving into a new mold. We've had a lot of things change recently. The length of the show has been a bit different. The use of the name PLE, the certain acts not being on certain events. So, yeah, there definitely feels like they are moving into a new version, new kind of structure for their premium
I do
events,
prefer
at
it.
least.
Honestly, I do. And do you know what?
Yeah, there are things about it I like. There are still things like Luke said that I wish they shake up, but there are things about it that I do like.
I think, definitely there is some changes. Obviously, camera cuts as well. They, you know, always flitter in. That happened. I think the only time I appreciate that is in matches like Money in the Bank because there's too much going on. But jumping from camera to camera to camera, you know, for like one move, does drive me crazy and causes a seizure, I swear. But the matches were given time. And do you know, this is a prime example of not comparing an old school NXT to how WWE is or Raw or SmackDown is, right? And the way Vince run it and Triple H run it. But when we had Triple H running NXT and we had Adam Cole and Ciampa and all these guys, they were given so much time to showcase their match that it was fantastic. Every match on NXT at that point, if you remember, Scott, it was just every pay-per-view then was fantastic. There wasn't one you could put compared to another because they're all good. All of a sudden, when they're getting pay-per-views or PLEs on WWE, Raw and SmackDown, that every match is something good in it and it's solid. They've got time. It's not overproduced. And do you know what I mean? It's more storytelling. We're being more invested. So
I got to say, I do feel the match quality has improved the last few months.
So good.
You know,
and go on.
You know, something I think they could benefit from every now and again would be like they can now give it in your house to NXT, but like just like a C-level kind of event, like a Saturday night's main event or something like that. Like every now and again, just like maybe one per season, because I think there's always like this kind of, like I say, on this card, we say you could have had Gunther, face anyone really, take your pick from the locker room. We could have obviously had maybe even like so many things you could have had like on the same card. Like it's hard because now obviously it seems that it'd be interesting to see. Obviously SummerSlam, obviously we have got Roman. Most likely for Clash at the Castle, we think we've got Roman.
We hope.
In Open Worlds. And obviously Saudi will get Roman later in the year.
Yeah.
And possibly Survivor Series. But you got to imagine, like, if there's an Extreme Rules or TLC or whatever thrown in there, they probably aren't getting Roman. They're getting whatever the attraction match is.
Yeah.
But we are seeing like a lot of omissions. And I think could be a decent idea for some of these, like, other feuds and rivalries or whatever to build up to, like a Saturday Night Main Event, that kind of thing. But I think it's unfair, like, how certain things I'd like are actually TV only, because you mentioned someone there actually who has actually been on TV for a long time now, but not on the PLE. Ciampa, like he debuted on Raw about 2 months ago. Has had matches, exists, but it's going nowhere. He's not on the PLE. But the Mysterios, like,
and that's it. When they do, they don't have 3 or 4 matches against the same people in a row, and that's the problem. There needs to be more rotation. I understand you can't just get rid of a feud after 1 month sometimes, but there needs to be more rotation. And like you say, maybe kind of weirdly enough, C shows or specials and stuff like that. But then it's finding that balance between it not looking like I'm not going to watch that, so you got to be careful with that. Every now and then, like, Triple H has got sharp and heat type situation, rather than kind of confusing us. But another great match. Next up, we see backstage Liv is getting interviewed. Of course, this comes out later on, but she kind of hints WrestleMania. She mentions WrestleMania, kind of going back to what we discussed yesterday on the build-up show. If you weren't with us on the build-up show, why not? Come back next time and join us on the build-up show. We basically do previews to the PLE events on the night of the PLE event, just kind of get us all hyped and into it. We had so many great comments yesterday. So many people joined us and said hi, and thankfully subscribed as well. We really do hope, if you're watching now, whether live or on demand, you'll do the same if you haven't already. But yeah, PLE was build-up shows are really exciting to do. And yesterday we talked about this whole thing about Cody Rhodes saying in the promo it going on to Mania, and that's what you're going to do with the Money in the Bank briefcase. It seems like they backtracked on that, but they kind of mentioned it again, flirting with it with Liv Morgan. But again, hey, that was a little bit of a swerve because we know what happens later on. Next up, we had what was it? It was Carmella versus Bianca Belair. So another women's match early on. Again, as you mentioned earlier on, Lucas, a great representation for women on this card. So that was really nice to see. Pretty much a basic match. Again, I quite enjoyed it. I thought they both did quite well. What I really, really enjoyed was Bianca Belair snapping towards the end. She still was a babyface. She kept it kind of contained in that sense, but she was kind of, don't push me because I'm close to the edge kind of situation there, where she kind of showed what she's all about and reminded you of this kind of nasty streak when she was a heel in NXT, which she was a fantastic heel by the way. So that would be really good to see. Can't wait when it comes. But she's also a natural babyface, so I'm not complaining there. But yeah, I really like that. I like that she won because she let that kind of nasty streak come out of her. She had enough of Carmella's kind of tactics. And I know, Lucas, you're not a big fan of Carmella, but, you know, storyline-wise and character-wise, I think they played that quite well. And then the only thing I didn't get was her attacking Bianca after. But in hindsight, maybe that was to make us go, Liv's gonna cash in, which I didn't think at all. So it didn't work if that was the case. I just ended up thinking, oh, why are you beating her up? So yeah, that was a bit confusing to me. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's got rematch written over it, essentially, I think. Yeah, I think potentially, yes, it was to potentially do the tease with Liv. But I think, yeah, like, I think it perhaps didn't have the same effect that perhaps they felt it would. I think because Bianca's been built up quite strong and the attack wasn't very, like, too convincing. You know, like, it wasn't too, it was just like a kind of pity attack. But I think if she had done a bit more, then I think
like pulled out a chair or thrown her into the steps.
It would have kind of got the point over a bit more. But I think it kind of is one of those things. It works doubly. Like it's both. You know, it will end up as a rematch probably on Raw tomorrow night, or next week or whatever. Or if it is continuing to SummerSlam, like I hope not personally. Like I hope. Actually, I do actually hope for SummerSlam to have one of the women's title matches. You know, be a multi-person match. I think. Let's get, you know, as much as obviously there were bits we didn't like from the earlier multi-woman match, I think we need to start seeing more of these faces like regularly on PLEs. You know, we don't always need to see the same because it seems that they only do triple threats when it is the Becky, Bianca, Asuka, you know, Charlotte, Ronda, etc. It's like, why can't it be like Bianca versus Carmella versus Doudrop? You know, or versus, you know, Dana Brooke or someone, just throw someone else new in the mix, like, because it makes our job much fun as well. But we don't have to just say like, oh well, this is like the 10th time we're seeing this person on the PLE do the same thing. So we just
and people like Shotzi would have more of a chance, you know, like and Lacey, you know, we'll have a bit more of an understanding. Again, you know, maybe it's my fault for not watching the weeklies, but I think we'd have a bit more of an understanding of who they are as characters.
No, but the thing is though, I think this is something we got to get out of because back in the day, like if you take a card that's really strong from the late 80s, early 90s, or even into the Attitude gets a bit more trickier because some of it is very much like, oh, why are they having this match? You know, why has Perry Saturn got moppy? You know, you have to obviously know that, okay, that was because he did this, blah, blah. But when you think of just a classic storytelling they've told, like you can watch Savage versus Hogan and just understand that, oh, they were best friends and like he betrayed him and now this is the match. You don't need to have to watch bloody like a whole year's of television. You can if you want. It's on the network. Like not that much back then because obviously that was when it was just, you know, Superstars and a few little house shows and MSG and then, you know, a couple of other things. But like it shouldn't be this way that you have to watch like every single waking hour of television to understand. You know,
too much anyway.
It's like you don't need to, you know, Marvel getting like it's just getting ridiculous where you need to have to watch like every single episode of all their TV series on some one thing, you know, in one movie. Same thing in wrestling. Like you want to be able to sometimes just be okay, this is the bad guy, he's bad because of this, this is the good guy because of that. And the thing is, the classic stories have got them over so many times. Like even WrestleMania 30, I'm a more modern one. Sorry, people, if I'm making myself out to be old by giving a Hogan Savage reference. But, like look at WrestleMania 30. Like it was the underdog of Daniel Bryan, you know, overcoming the odds against Batista and Randy Orton. Do you know what I mean? Like, and you can watch that even as a person who's not even a WWE fan, understand, oh, okay, it was the underdog story.
Yeah.
The same story we did with, you know, Bret Hart back in 1994. And then they did with, like, Shawn Michaels when he did the Boyhood Dream Come True. You know, like, it's just that same story and it works. And you don't need to always... Yeah, we shouldn't be like that, like punishing ourselves basically, and made to feel inferior because we haven't watched, you know, last week's main event to understand, you know, why this is all happening. Like, some of it should be easier.
Definitely.
Yeah, you're right. Do you know what? Saying that, what you were literally just speaking of, there was a time when was it Bret Hart had his jacket stolen, and then a whole feud was built on his jacket. It was so simple. Like it doesn't have to be over the top and dramatic and all that sort of stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like as you said, you having to check in every week and all that. Great. Yes, we get the the story based, and they showed a B-roll of the build and all that. But do you know what I mean? Like sometimes it's easy to just go, okay, this happened, and then we get that match. Especially for matches like, for example, Carmella and Bianca, it didn't need to be over the top and all the way they do it. Like it just needed to be simple. And to be honest, this felt like just a generic Carmella match. Like it was good, but you're only going to get certain things out of some people, and I don't really think Carmella can do that much.
I'm not the biggest fan of Carmella, as you know.
I don't mind.
This was fine for Carmella match and for this show. Like I think, in some ways, I guess they might have weirdly done it on purpose, because even the other women's match, which we'll get to in due course, like they were both like really boring on the most part, and then obviously the big moment of Liv cashing in, like was the big like, oh, that's amazing kind of reaction. But I don't know if they want to do that. How you really go about doing that intentionally, like just what you're doing, telling your performers to be rubbish. But yeah, I think this one was just it was a by the numbers like title defense for Bianca Belair, which is what we kind of all predicted anyway. So
yeah, true.
We can't really. The only part we had is the ending, but I think it's just setting up a rematch.
Probably it seems more that way now than
Well, probably Raw. And the next week, hopefully, they just announce new contenders. And say contenders because I want contenders. I don't want one person again.
We'll see how SummerSlam goes. Before we move on quickly from this match, though, I do want to say one more thing: is that I really enjoyed Corey Graves' comment about saying that Triple H told him a nice wedding spot there in Vegas. Which is quite funny. If you know your wrestling history, going back to 1999, there talking again like old people. What's wrong with us? Right. Let's move on to what. Well, next up, actually, we had what really annoyed me. And I don't want to spend too much time on this, but Alexa Bliss backstage earlier with Lilly, which turned out to be an advert for a credit card. Now, I understand they do these things. It's all right when it's, R-Truth dressed up as Colonel Sanders, and it's all right when it's the Street Profits joking about with Otis and whatever. But when you have a character that I know was quite hokey, and I tweeted this last night, and thanks to everyone that joined us last night, myself tweeting and our live tweets on the RM Pro Wrestling Twitter account at RM Pro Wrestling. We're going to get into a little bit more of the discussion that we had there last night as well in a bit. But one of the things I tweeted out on my own account was about Lilly kind of, turns out it all was for nothing. And they kind of just, I know the Brave thing happened. I know it was hokey at times, but she was fantastic through, what she had to do, Alexa. So the fact that just now using it to sell a credit card, it was, you could hear the boos were very audible.
It's
during
weird.
That
they kept the crowd mics on for that.
Yeah.
Like I don't recall them doing that for the other segments.
Because they tried to make it seem, they used to do that a lot with a backstage segment, but an earlier one and a pre-tape, it doesn't make sense.
The thing is, they've got to be careful because this is actually it's partially illegal to advertise like that in certain countries. I think America is much more lenient with this stuff, but in the UK, obviously, we do have laws that say that you have to differentiate an advert from a program, even on streaming services. And it did feel like that was the program, and then someone gets out a credit card and does an advert for it, like I think ads.
I guess it goes in with product placement, but it was
product placement is still just like, it's just like, oh, drink this, blah blah. But this was very much.
You know what I think it was
selling it, and she was selling it like, like I think they need to be careful. I think ads need to be ads, content needs to be content. Don't try and really mix the two. Like it's always awkward. Even product placement's awkward, to be fair. The amount of times you just used to have to cringe when Jerry Lawler would go on about something at the table, because just I guess it is obviously the beast of society nowadays. Ads, obviously we're on a platform which obviously loves to give people ads before, during, and after every single video. You pause it, they still give you an ad like 1 second later, just to remind you where you stand. But it was a very odd segment that. I didn't.
I think for me, do you know what confused me? Not at first, because I thought, okay, they're going into a segment with Alexa and Lilly, or whatever's going on, and obviously that it was an advert. But I think What was annoying, obviously you can tell after she brought the credit card out that it was an ad, but it wasn't showcased how their ads normally are. Like within a WWE ad,
to say it was earlier today, I thought was
it was so
cheeky.
different to how it normally is that you thought it was a backstage segment, then that transitioned into an ad. Whereas normally a WWE ad, which is why normally WWE ad is so different as, you know, it's more like a whole package, and they have all like so
and
different.
That's fine. Look, obviously, everyone understands they have to do adverts. Like, I mean, no one likes them, but don't present them as program, as content.
Make it as an advert.
The advert is an advert. We get that. If you want Alexa Bliss and Liz to do that, that's fine. Like, we get that why that exists, but don't do the whole Air Tonight thing and make us think that it's part.
And it's the bringing back Lilly stuff when she's clearly moving away from that anyway. It was such a mess. Before we wrap this bit up, I'm just going to mention the tweet I mentioned earlier on. So I said at Scott_RebNoise, if you don't follow me, just when you thought the Alexa Bliss / Lilly storyline couldn't have been more obvious, a more obvious waste of time a more obvious waste of time that led to nothing significant. They use it to sell a credit card. And we got a response from Bob Smith at KHR12310. WWE is only using Alexa Bliss for marketing now, and it's quite sad. They use her to sell marquee matches and merchandise, which she does really well, by the way. And that is about it. I'm done. I just can't do it anymore. She deserves so much better than selling credit cards. So I said back to that, they definitely dropped the ball on what could have been something special. I know the Bray departure didn't help, but the fact that it went nowhere is wild. After such a strong year of performances from Alexa, it was always a bit hokey, but she always made it work, to be fair. And Bob comes back to us saying, I just don't get it. The Lilly doll sold out again at WWE shop, but they will not capitalize on it and book a great story for her. I've tried to give Bruce Pritchard and Vince McMahon at WWE the benefit of the doubt, but I just can't do it anymore. Alexa Bliss needs to leave WWE, Bob's saying. I personally wouldn't say she needs to leave. I think she had a very strong year that kind of went nowhere, and that's what I'm frustrated with. But you can't deny that she was part of. They put a lot in her. They put a lot of stock in her. Now it didn't work out the way it should have. It was a bit hokey at times, as I mentioned. She was fantastic. She performed above her pay grade, probably, but at the same time, she was a big feature, which probably earned her a nice bit of dosh in merchandise sales anyway. Even though I know their kind of margins aren't great for the talent in WWE, but
she would have benefited from, you know, like if they were able or allowed to do this, like a non-championship women's match, like obviously giving her a speciality match at like an Extreme Rules or, you know, around that kind of time period where she'd have been able to, you know, I mean, you know, whatever it was going to be called, like even just like a Lily's Playground match, something like that, like just anything, just like something that she could have made her own to at least, if nothing more, just kind of get something out of the investment. But it all just felt very flat. And then didn't she come back for the Chamber? Then she left again. Yeah, wasn't part of Mania. And then
there was that time that she cost Bray the match. And nothing ever came of that properly anyway. There was so much of it. But if you want to hear more of us talking about Alexa Bliss and that strange storyline, then we got plenty of podcasts on this channel to go back and listen to in depth on each and every one of those big moments in her recent career. Right, let's move on then to the next match, which was, I mean, talking about great matches, my goodness, guys, this match was incredible. You know what, Rob? You can go first.
Man, it was so damn good, wasn't it? It was so good. Like for me, this was 100% match of the night. I think I said this to Lucas. I was me and you were talking about it. And we said this has the potential. Do you know what it was though? It started off real slow. It was a very. I was like, oh, they're not going to deliver. Like. They have chemistry, yes, but the storytelling, the Usos are trying to be more dominant and they're doing this and they're doing that. Then all of a sudden, they just switched it up like that. Yeah, man, they just switched it up and wow, what a match. Like there were so many spots, you know, Montez flying over the top, you know, diving over the top turnbuckle before that. And then,
oh, Angelo did it first. Like his flip was so impressive. It's a shame that Montez's one kind of overshined it a little bit, but Angelo's one was great, and I think Angelo did a great job in this. Past few months, it started to feel like they know which one they've got their eye on, and it felt like Montez Ford. I think so, but I think I think Angelo really made a claim for himself in this match.
Yeah, I guess so. Because I mean, Tez is very. They said that he's put on like 20 pounds of muscle, and you can see it. Like he's looking better. Like he does look better with that muscle. And sometimes you think, if you put muscle on, does it slow you down? Is it worth? If it worth it? If anything,
he weren't slow.
It ramped him up. Like he looks so good. Like in general, Also, that jacket, the jacket he had with Tez on her back. So they need to be selling them, surely. Like, it was so nice. But oh man, what a phenomenal match! Like the false finishes. I mean, the part when was it? They done their finisher. This is Street Profits done their finisher, and I think it was Jay that was laying in the ring, and all of a sudden it got to literally about to hit the free count, and then one of the twins, I can't remember which one it was, literally dived in and just used her head to break the pin up. Like,
I mean,
it was
the near falls in this were fantastic. And again, a match where we look at it before going, surely it's going to be the Usos. I think we all eventually went with our prediction. I think let's double check. Yeah, we all said the Usos.
Rob took about a month to decide.
Rob did take a long time to get there.
Sure.
But
you see
speaking, it was quite clear for me. But then they still, like you said, it was a bit of a slow burner at first. And it was like, yeah, they're good teams, but how would it go? The last, 50% of the match was, oh my goodness, unbelievable. And again, the near falls, they suckered me in, hook, line, and sinker. I was there, man. Like jumping up and down. I was jumping out my seat. I was shouting. Hats off, man. Like, well, not literally, but yeah, hats because I got my headphones on. Hats off, man. They're absolutely fantastic. You mentioned there, Tez. Are we going in that direction then? Is that his new name?
I think it's his nickname, isn't it? It's Montez Ford, but I think
because
they call him.
Speaking of which, my goodness, Michael Cole couldn't stop saying the Profits rather than Street Profits. He just could not stop saying it. A little bit similar to what we were saying yesterday about the new Viking Raiders. But man, I mean, you talked about some of those spots there. Both jumped over the ropes and flips for the Street Profits, the Profits, Michael Cole. The blockbuster kick out was huge. The frog splash breaking up, it was just crazy. I thought, and this is one of those things where you just like, tag team wrestling is so fun. It can be so fun, and this perfect example of it. If this one goes to a rematch, cool. Looking forward to seeing that.
Got to with that finish.
Yeah. Sadly, the finish for me sours it like a smidgen.
I was shocked they did that. I was really shocked they did it.
Yeah, especially because they behaved very weirdly with it. Because usually when that happens, they identify it straight away and won't shut up. It felt very much like the Usos won, then left the ring, and then they started doing it. It's almost like they decided we're only doing the angle. We're only going to do the angle now, kind of thing, like on the fly.
Yeah, but they they were ready to put the light on the shoulder to show and to zoom in. So it was like it felt planned, but. Yeah, I don't know.
It did feel just felt. It depends where it goes from here, and obviously we spoke in depth last night, so I won't go back into it about obviously this whole merge belt scenario that they created for themselves.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm with you in that. Yeah, they definitely have their eyes on Montez Ford. Absolutely, and why wouldn't you? He's phenomenal. But my pitch to WWE is just keep them together, please. Keep them together. Like the tag division you could build would be quite interesting. Even if you're going to have the one set of titles, like that's cool because you actually, you don't have that many tag teams, but you have, premier tag teams really at the moment of obviously the Usos, Street Profits, New Day, the new Viking Raiders, who are able to, but they are able to give you some really, really good tag team action, and I would be down. I still don't even know if the Viking Raiders even got their shot around what was it, the Saudi show where they got attacked, wasn't it? And the match never started. I think.
I don't
even know they had their title shot after that, but I'll be down for that. They obviously worked Omos and AJ Styles obviously quite a bit last year, didn't they? But that was like a different kind of tag match dynamic, obviously with Omos in there. But yeah, this tag match was incredible. I think, you know, I can't help but think I got the kind of vibe of, you know, potentially if it is going to be the split of the Street Profits and obviously Montez goes solo, this was kind of the Usos and the Profits kind of saying, look, we're going to go out. You're going to go out with the best tag match possible.
Yeah.
Like, if this is going to be the final hurrah, which I really hope it's not. Like, I think, you know, as much as there is value in Montez Ford, like, how about you just use and see the value in other performers that you've already got that are single performers, and then spotlight this tag division to make it incredible. Like, honestly, like, again, I don't know what this card becoming like WrestleMania 2000, but another SummerSlam multi-man tag that could happen potentially. Imagine like the New Viking Raiders and I have said the full title all the time. The New Viking Raiders, the New Day, Street Profits, and the Usos in like a fatal 4-way. Like how incredible that could be.
Yeah,
so good.
And it could really like change the face of tag team wrestling again in the same way as years before. You know, we saw Edge and Christian, the Hardys.
I mean, they done. I mean, even saying that, the Hardys, Edge and Christian, and the Dudleys set the you know, they set a bar in 2000, and then they done it for the next the WrestleMania. Was it 21 or whatever it was? They done it. Was it? Yeah. And then you had New Day, Lucha Dragons, and the Usos in a triple threat for the tag titles. Obviously, they set the bar for that. And now you've got the Street Profits, Usos, New Day, Viking Raiders. Like, dude, I hope they don't break them up because the new Viking Raiders.
You got it in the end.
I hope they look. I get it. If you do see, sometimes you look at a tag and you think, all right, this one is the star. Don't Marty Jannetty anyone. Don't do it for the Street Profits, right? Look, if they're gonna split them, then I think it needs to be a case of Tez. If Tez is the one, obviously they're looking at pushing. Just they need to do it as a thing of look. I need to go solo for a bit. I wanna venture out and see where we're going.
More like a Big E New Day situation.
Yeah, like do it that way.
I think
we don't need another one. I think it is, and I think it's stupid to do it. If they're gonna do it,
surely the better option for me is, I think they could build this tag division up. Either it is one set of belts or two set of belts, whatever it is, around those 4 tag teams as like the main teams. Obviously, have them, you know, trade the belts a little bit around. So they all get a share of them. Obviously, and then use those 4 teams to build up the other teams that they're trying to do. Like I think Los Lotharios is still apparently a thing. You've got obviously Mace and Mansoor now. Like I know, like people are might be laughing at these, but it's because the presentation. Like everyone's laughable if they don't get any matches, don't get any TV time. You know, because no one's a contender. But make people a contender. Like there's no reason why if you want the Street Profits and Usos, and that's why I'm glad that they are doing it. With the new Viking Raiders, but obviously they are still just going, okay, well, same way we do it for the women and for the World Championships, it's just the same 4 people. Like the Viking Raiders, they could have, but you know, it's the thing because they made people out to be, obviously, you know, not over enough essentially, and to warrant a feud. But the Viking Raiders, after, you know, couldn't they feud with Los Lotharios, or couldn't they feud with, you know, like another?
Just like the women's division, man, like. Do something outside of the titles, like
because it's always worked.
Do you know who they done that? They had you know the Bludgeon Brothers. Now, okay, look, they split them up in a good way, and they let them battle against that. Harper and Rowan had their little kind of a feud when they broke away from the Wyatt family. Then they all put back together again. Then they broke up again. Then put back together, and it was a bit of a mess. But when they finally got into this form of being the Bludgeon Brothers, and they literally just dismantled every single tag team, and it was fantastic because you literally had a team that was important, and at one point they didn't care about titles; they were just there to cause destruction. And I'm not saying that you need to do this with the Street Profits, but the new Viking Raiders, do it with them.
Yeah, like, build them without the titles. Yeah, build them towards the title. Yeah,
and make tag teams important. There's been an era when they've done this. WrestleMania 7 card, like, look, these are the tag teams on it. The Rockers, Hardcore and the Barbarian, the Nasty Boys, Heart Foundation. You had those 2 Japanese guys, Demolition, Legion of Doom. Legion of Doom, another tag team. They face someone like on the same card. Like,
yeah.
You know, it is possible to do it. And obviously, only one of those matches was for the WWF Tag Team Championships. Power and Glory, so that's what they faced. Legion of Doom faced Power and Glory. You know, that was fair enough, like a 1 minute match or whatever. But still, like, you had like 4 tag team matches with tag teams that, on the most part, like Nasty Boys, Heart Foundation, Demolition, Legion of Doom,
they deliver,
are household names. Like even now, like 30 years
it always
later.
feels like, I feel like for the past few years we're constantly saying it as if they're rebuilding the division. Like it always feels like they could rebuild a division with this, and they just never do. And it's the same with the IC title, same with the US title. You always think this could be the start of something.
This is that turning point.
And it's frustrating, because how are there so little tag teams? Or maybe there are more, but we're not thinking about it because, like you said, Lucas, like presentation is just not quite there for it. But
you've got Sheamus's stable, haven't you?
Yeah.
Like there's enough talent there, like to do it. You know, maybe
because it's like if you're not challenging for the title, you're not on the show, and it's just
that's
what
it feels
like.
You know what their problem is? They want tag teams, right? This is their thing. They want tag teams that look good and they're polished. And then what they do is they think, this one's a star. Let's break them up. And then the minute they break them up, one gets lost in the shuffle, the other one gets released, and then you're back to square one with no bloody tag teams.
Yeah.
Alpha Academy. Right, they've done it with them, and I mean, what are they called?
Jason Jordan then got injured.
Obviously, he got injured, but that was a thing. So then they put it into something else, and then we had Otis and Tucker. That was another one. Like, you know, even with the women's when they done with the Iconics, stop breaking up proper tag teams and leave them alone.
It's Warriors.
Why? Like, why do it?
Squad.
It's a waste because then one gets left. The other
and
one
they throw the randoms together as well, like,
and then we have no tag team. Exactly. Yeah. Like, stop splitting up bloody tag teams and keep them together.
Yeah, they definitely. We said it a lot last night with some of the booking, but shooting themselves in the foot is a great analogy for this because they constantly seem to do it with the tag team division. Like I say, it's a cycle of exactly how you just explained it. But it's so much more that we got. Let's just like the women's division, just like the US and the IC division, the tag division needs grudge feuds that don't involve and it has character development that doesn't involve title matches. But hey, all right, we've spent quite a bit of time talking about tag teams here. Let's move on to the next subject, which will be the next match. Well, actually, it's not a match. Let's move on to the vignette that we saw.
Please tell me.
Tell you what, Bray Wyatt. Oh,
it's got to be Bray, man. It has to be Bray.
All right. Well, hold on. I think we're gonna have to say goodbye to Lucas. Lucas has only been able to join us for a little bit today. Well, it was much longer than he said, to be fair. So thank you for that, Lucas. We'll catch you again soon. We're gonna carry on this stream with just myself and Rob, or Robney, as we've nicknamed him as of last night's stream.
Have you seen the name change as well?
I see it when you logged in, yeah. But yeah, Lucas, thank you very much for joining us. Right, if you got any notes on any of us, shoot us a message and we'll read them out as well.
Man. Take care, guys.
Brilliant, mate. See you later, mate. Bye. Right, cool. So now let's get on to the next segment, and it was the vignette that that has aired, and man, there's been a lot of speculation about this already. I think it's quite clear who it is. And I think a lot of people are going towards that, but it's someone that a lot of people want it to be. And I don't think it is, but I can understand why people were at first thought it might have been. Now let's get into some of the debate and discussion we had last night on Twitter at RN Pro Wrestling on Twitter. Please follow us if you want to have be involved in these discussions throughout the night, because we usually do live tweeting throughout these big events as well as our build-up shows before them. And I'm just going to get to some of the tweets because, my goodness, Rob, it's still going on to this very day. We've had... Go on.
No, go on. Who are you going for?
Right, so we tweeted out just an image of it, and it said the Bray Wyatt / Fiend rumors have sparked again, because that's where it first seemed to go, because it was very quick. It's easy saying, it's clearly Edge, who most people are saying now, when you're watching it back slowed down. But at first, when nobody had access to images or anything like that, it felt like Bray Wyatt. So that's, we tweeted that out. And I tell you, Rob, it's had thousands of interactions. And we've got, how many comments have we got actually? Let's have a little tweak. What am I saying? Peak. I can't see the amount of comments here. Hold on. Let's have a look. What's going on there? Okay. Sorry for this delay, but in the meantime, please follow us at RN Pro Wrestling. All right, so we've got about 162 comments. I'm not going to read them all out, but I did mention that we'd read out some of the best. So basically, the main gist at first was it seemed like Bray Wyatt / The Fiend, after what he said on Twitter a little while ago, and it does feel like he's either coming back to WWE or he's showing up somewhere new. But then one of the top comments here we've got from at Dogwalker512, Chelsea Glover says, it's Edge because they showed things that were part of a feud he had. In brackets, Guerrero, Angle, Hardys, Dudleys. Now, those are the 4 things I eventually noticed. Again, straight away, I didn't see him. A lot of people did mention, we did a few tweets on this and a few people come back at different points. We were like, what can you notice? And someone else did bring up the Latino Heat license plate, Kurt Angle. A lot of people thought it would be Gable Stevenson because of the medal, but it looks like the Atlanta medal that Kurt Angle would have won. And then we see definitely what looks like Jeff Hardy's armbands. We also see the Dudley Boys glasses with the tape in the middle. A lot of people really stretching there, saying it was IRS's glasses, which I don't think, even if they were bringing back the feed, they'd use IRS as a kind of symbol for that. But although, of course, it is his dad, I am aware. Yeah, those things. Now, there might be more interesting ones that come up. Now, to me, that does lead towards Edge. We also had from Bocce, is it? ELCACO00001. Just got to put the handle there as well. It's either Gacy or Edge. The person walking does not look anything like Bray. And then someone has basically come up with what looks like found footage here of the of Bigfoot. Raheen Khan at Raheen Khan 2207 says, I disagree. It seemed like Bray's shadow only. Watch that video again. The screen, the red light, the crow, the tree all relate to Bray Wyatt in some way or the other. Look at this picture carefully. But then most of the comments coming through saying it's Edge. A funny one from Ryan Amos at Amos Ryan saying, I know Wyndham Rotunda and I know his hand. And that is 100% definitely his hand, which a lot of people bit. And he later on come back and said, I did all caps on hands. The fact you think I was being serious is concerning. Because someone else had tweeted saying, bookmarking this so I can come back when it's revealed to be Edge, which was at MLB0123, which, although might not have seen the joke Ryan was trying to make there, I think is making a very good point that this hysteria that builds up around Bray Wyatt and returns when it ends up being people like Edge is quite hilarious that it happens so often. And yes, bookmark these tweets because it's time to come back to them eventually. Go on.
So, right, look.
And thank you for everyone that commented, by the way.
Yeah. Look, I agree, right? Obviously, the first thing you think of, you see something spooky like that. If it ain't Taker, it's Bray Wyatt. Yeah, we know that for a fact. If it isn't Bray, then it would have been Eric Rowan or Luke Harper. Obviously, Harper's no longer with us. Brody Lee obviously passed. We know that isn't the case. I don't think Rowan would come back. I think if he was going to go anywhere, he'd go AEW to do the Dark Order stuff and fulfill Brody what he would have been doing, right?
Right.
Now, do you know what I mean? That, like, I think he would have done that.
Yeah.
For him, Brody. Bray, maybe. But you know what? Saying about what you were just talking about, and they're doing all this cryptic stuff. Now, way back, maybe 10 years ago, something like that, Chris Jericho had really weird vignettes, and it wasn't a breaking a code one. It was like terrifying Undertaker type kind of things, and they had like Canadian maple trees and all this randomly like in areas and all that, and the vignettes went on for ages, and all of a sudden it made sense, and it was Jericho. I get it if you're gonna go down this road and you're gonna do it with Edge because of the Judgment Day and all that sort of stuff, right? But this is what confuses me. Apparently, WWE wanted the Judgment Day to go into more of a spooky kind of feel, right? And like supernatural and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And go that direction. Edge said no. So they said, all right, basically, from what I read, they kicked Edge out, or they removed Edge, and then they gave it to Finn. And Finn led it. Nothing's happened with Judgment Day since. So if Edge is coming back, and this is the aura that he's bringing back, then basically, that's all supernatural stuff and the way they've done the design. So they've either allowed him to do the supernatural stuff, and it makes no sense, or Edge is coming back as something else. But if he's coming back all dark and mysterious, then he should have just bloody stayed with Judgment Day in the first place. I don't get that.
Yeah, so this, for me, if it is Edge, it feels like a reset to what they were doing Judgment Day as. And like, rumors are that Edge didn't like the supernatural thing. That's why they kicked him out. Again, we kind of touched on it on a build-up show for Money in the Bank. But it was a shocking way they did that reveal with Finn. I thought it was really good. But the fact is they haven't used them properly since. Edge ain't been around either. So bringing him back, it's a weird way to do it. But maybe it's a reset to be, because it's not so much supernatural. It could just be dark. You know, Edge was trying to be all metal. You know, that's what he was trying to be with his character. And it went slightly kind of supernatural with it, and then apparently rumor is that it was going very supernatural, and he kind of said, right, take me out of it. So he kind of needs his theme back for a start. It can't be Judgment Day's theme. He had built this character and they took it away from him, so it feels like it might be a reset if it's Edge. Also though, Edge makes sense because of the kind of clues and hints we've got there, especially with the Dudleys and with the Hardys. Like, you could say it could be someone else from that era, but who else is coming back to do this kind of stuff, you know? So yeah, it might not necessarily be Edge, but I think Edge aligns up with the people that we kind of see reference, and also the dark side. But that doesn't, how can Edge, it's hard for Edge. He turned heel. He needs to come back as a babyface now because of what happened to him. So it's like they've completely reset and they're going to just ignore Judgment Day or something, and Edge is coming back and going to just start again. That's what I'm kind of thinking it looks like. I don't think that's what it's going to be, but like, man, it's very confusing. But hey, this is what it's all about. It gets these kind of debates going. But I don't think it's Bray Wyatt. None of those clues make sense for Bray Wyatt. And yeah, they could go next week. There could be another one. There could be one on Raw that kind of hints at completely different people. And you go, oh, like, and in the end, the person comes out and goes, these are all icons of the business, but they don't matter anymore. And it shows them breaking all these pieces of merch and whatever else. It weren't about those individuals at all. Like, next time we see I don't know, Hogan's feather boa and some sequins off of, you know, Ric Flair's jacket and you know, the Hitman sunglasses, you know, like, and then they get smashed, like they all get smashed in the last reveal, and it was nothing to do with those characters, you know. And also, someone else has said on here, what if it's more than one person? At the Cold Canuck says, what if it's more than one person? Great point as well. Who says it's not a group? Who says it's not? I don't know. It could be really weird. It could be a Judgment Day thing. But it weren't purple, so who knows? Really confusing, man. What are your thoughts as far as the whole Bray Wyatt thing?
Look, my thing was, the minute I see it, as I said, for me, I thought it was Bray until you started saying about there was this hidden and that hidden. It was late. I haven't actually watched it back since. So the only thing I've actually seen on it was the vignette. And it flashed by so quickly that I was like, it's got to be Bray. Like, that's the only person that makes sense.
Because of the style,
Yeah. But, and do you know what else I think it was as well? There was specific noises that they only use for Bray's promos.
Right, yeah.
Like special sound effects and stuff. And they only ever used them with Bray as like the what was he called then? The leader, what was it? The Eater of Worlds.
Yeah.
And it just seems like maybe they're going back to that. I don't know. As you said, yes, there is no connection. But I mean, there was a time when Taker kept cutting, all he was doing promos and kept cutting his hair. There was no connection to anything till we come back with a bloody Mohican. Like, until we see it, we don't know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But look, if it's Edge, this is my thing, and I feel sorry for Edge, because if we get all this build up and people are going, oh, it's Bray, and then it's Edge, are people going to be like, oh, well, I wanted it to be Bray? Do you know, like, are they going to be a bit like...
Yeah, I mean, it will. It's 2/21/11 all over again. You know, when we hoped it was Sting, but it was The Undertaker, you know?
Exactly.
It's a very risky thing, but they kind of make, like... I feel like Edge as a person, just seeing from the way his character's gone, I feel like he would want these vignettes, and it makes sense. Like, a lot of it makes sense for Edge. But I think, man, you got kicked out your stable a month ago. Why we do? You're not coming back for, like, again, it's building up false hope. And although it's cool for Edge, it won't be a cool reveal if it's Edge at the moment, in my opinion. Another quick comment to get to here at Eric_champion says, that is Kurt Angle medal, Hardy Boys armbands, Dudley Boys glasses. Now, these are ones we didn't touch on. Brood candles, ministry rituals, and then again, going back to Latino Heat license plate and original Edge Titantron flashbacks. it's Edge. I did see a few people kind of mention it actually, that it was quite similar to his original Titantron, you know, is running through the street and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, some really interesting theories coming up as well. But yeah, well, how do you feel like if it is Edge? What do you feel at the moment? That would, you know, how that would go down.
Again, if it's Edge, great, but do something with it. Like, actually do something with it and make it something. Stop doing these vignettes for us to go, oh, look, we're going to be invested. And because I don't like one way, like, wait and see. Like, Edge not wanting to do this, like, supernatural stuff. All right, get it. I understand. So you don't want to do it, but don't kick him out. Find another way to do it. Maybe just have, I need to say Punishment Martinez then. Maybe have, I am. Like, or Rhea do something. Or
Well, this is it. Like, if this was in 4 months, right? 4 months time, 5, 6 months, maybe even a year, and Judgment Day were being used and they were doing something interesting and wreaking havoc, then it'd be like, oh, he's coming back. Because it would be like this big bad kind of vignette. It'd be an exciting return. It wouldn't be someone that's been gone for 3-4 weeks. It'd be an exciting return, you know. So it'd be like, oh, Edge is fine. We know what it is. I hope it's Edge. Like breaking the code with Jericho. We all pretty much knew it was Jericho, but it was, what if it's not? And even if it is, my goodness, Jericho's been gone for ages. Hope it is him. You know, how everybody's feeling about Bray, it could be this way about Edge if it was in about 6 months' time. And like, you know, something really dark. Edge comes back as this real, because if Edge comes back now, you know, a month, 6 weeks later, going, I'm really dark and I'm going to get you. And oh my gosh, look what you did to me. It was terrible. Like, he can literally do that. He could come out on Raw and just do that. He doesn't need all these vignettes. So to make it this big, powerful, dark, mysterious Edge, time needs to have passed. It needs to be an actual return. Not, I ain't seen you for 6 weeks, because I wouldn't have seen him anyway, because I don't watch the weekly. So it's not that exciting, you know? So it's a strange way to be bringing back Edge.
And the thing is as well,
go on.
Again, it's one of those things that I don't want to moan. Look, I get it. It's a great build and all that sort of stuff. But if this is Edge, then he's coming back for a reason. Obviously, it's for the Judgment Day thing, right? So that's Finn Balor. So let's say, for example, we get Edge versus Finn. Now, if it comes all the way back and Edge has this massive vignette, this whole build, and he's better than he ever was, and he's darker and he's meaner and all that sort of stuff, and he's filled with all this energy, and he loses to Finn Balor, what a waste of time. Like, there has to be something. There needs to be a bigger outcome. And as you said, Judgment Day are doing nothing. So Edge is building all these vignettes, they're doing all this sort of stuff. For what? Like, what's he coming back for?
Unless it's a complete reset and move you away from Judgment Day and they kind of quietly disband them. It's just, hey, but again, you know, I say it as if it's a negative, but look, we're excitedly talking about what it could be and what it could not be and stuff like that. So it's a good thing. Quickly want to get into a comment before we finish and wrap up on this subject and move on to the rest of the events for Money in the Bank. But we've got a comment from @Lisa Duncan 66. Had a thought, what if it's someone who wants to beat Edge? A teaser as to whoever is coming after, just trying to think outside the obvious box. And that's what we want to hear, actually, you know, not just the same old, of course it's Edge, no, it's Bray. Yeah, maybe it is about Edge and it's not Edge himself. So they haven't
someone
done
wants
something
to be
like
Edge.
That before.
Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder.
But I mean, it's very outside the box, that one. But yeah, interesting thing there. Anything else you want to mention about this before we move on?
Look, other than I love the mystery. I love these sort of vignettes because it gets people talking, and conspiracy theories and all that, and the fan theories and all that go wild, especially on YouTube. And it's interesting. When we had it with Bray and all that different one word and then it meant something else. And I love it. Absolutely love it. But don't ruin it. Like, actually make it something. Don't overproduce it. Make it nice and raw as it was. Keep it as it is. And let us enjoy it. Like, let us be invested in it and actually make it something. And look, I'll be happy. I just don't want it to do all that and then it goes to waste like Judgment Day already has. Like, make something from it. That's my thing.
Very, very good points. And just kind of to wrap it up even further, actually, I've got one more comment here from a quote retweet of Terrence S. Ellington @TS Ellington, who says, I've been reading this for Edge. I'm a fan of Edge. He's great, but he could just pop up in the middle of a match and crowd would love it. Why do a cool video like this for him? which is a really good point. Kind of wraps it up what we've been saying there. Like, it feels like it could be a wasted thing. And I know, Adam Copeland, the man, probably thinks this is exciting and fun, but I think it might do more damage than good if it ends up just being simply an Edge return. To be like, hey, I'm the big bad moody Edge. Because is he going to be a heel again? Because even that, like, why is he a babyface? Like, I was excited to see what we were going to get from this new Edge, and they kind of killed it. So, yeah, we'll see where this goes. But yeah, I think it's now time to move on to the next match, which was, hold on, let's get the graphic up. We've got Ronda Rousey versus Natalya for the SmackDown Women's Championship. One thing to quickly mention here, I feel like Natalya's got extra guitar in her theme song. I'm not sure if that's the case. It just felt very prominent last night. Ronda did the sharpshooter. What's that? Boogs. Oh, yeah.
Rick Boogs.
I forgot about him. It's another point that we mentioned earlier about names you just don't see anymore. Ronda does the sharpshooter in this, kind of pretends to be Brett, because obviously they mentioned it's Brett's birthday. Now they kind of make this a bit confusing, because again, I said, as I did on the build-up last night, really enjoyed this kind of Twitter feud they've had. I thought it was quite clear who the face and the heel was until the match happened. I know he's your uncle and it's his birthday, but the homage to Brett would have suited you if you were a babyface, and you're not playing a babyface. And then Ronda kind of taking a mick out of Brett would suit you if you're a heel, and you're not playing a heel. So that kind of threw me a little bit. I thought it was a good match though. I did like the sharpshooter on the apron that got reversed into getting a head bumped onto that huge turnbuckle thing that you've got on the outside now as well. A lot of great kind of technical kind of reversals towards the end as well. Natalya reversing the armbar and the sharpshooter, and then going into the ankle lock, and then in the sharpshooter again, and eventually Ronda Rousey gets the victory with a tap out. But yeah, I quite enjoyed this match. It was it was just quite straightforward, good placed in the show, especially what comes next with it. But yeah, how did you feel about this, Rob?
I don't know, man.
Does seem like you liked it as much as I did.
Look, I appreciate Ronda Rousey for transitioning over, and I don't want to badmouth Ronda. I think, look, for what she's done in the ring and all that, and the time that she spent and stuff, great. But I feel like I watch a Ronda Rousey match. I can watch this one against Natty, or I can go back last year or the year before and watch another one against Becky, and it's basically the same match. Like the same with Carmella, as we were talking about earlier. Ronda she has one specific thing, and that's it. She does the arm throw thing, which I absolutely hate. She does the stupid stomp thing, and then she does an armbar. Like, she doesn't do much else other than that. And I think because she's such a name, it's okay for her to do that. It's like Cena with the 5 moves of doom. We were past it, and I just don't get this thing about Ronda. Now, the feud itself was great. Ronda being the babyface and Natty being the heel was fantastic. I love seeing that. But the match was okay. The finish I enjoyed. It was a nice way, the transition from a sharpshooter into an armbar to a sharpshooter into like a standing armbar on Natty. Like, the finish was good. I think the build up for it was so much better than the actual outcome of the match. Like the way the match was. It was a good match, but I mean, compare that to the match we had with Bianca and Carmella. I think that was better than this one. And not that I want to be comparing women's matches, but that was better than this one. And I think it was much more important, and I enjoyed that more than this. I don't know. For some reason, I can't get invested in Ronda matches because I feel like they're always the same. And because she does the same stuff.
I get you, but I feel somewhat unfair because I feel like there was a match a while ago against Charlotte where it did feel quite different, and she did do different things. It felt, or a different way to do it. And I know what you mean. Like, it's her style. She's always going to go back to, eventually I'm going to get you in a hold. I'm going to get you in a hold, and there's a lot of reversals. But I think I just credit it in this sense because although she does that a lot, she does it with different opponents. The way she did it with Natalya was quite interesting.
It was good. I enjoyed
it. A lot of times it is that rolling around, slowly get into it. Rolling around, slowly get into it. It was a lot more similar to what we saw with Lashley and Theory, in a sense it was free-flowing reversals and things like that quite quickly. So I did think the execution was good, but I understand what you mean as far as like the formula is quite similar to what we've seen.
It's very same.
Anyway. Yeah.
And I think that's for me, that's the only negative that I can have on it. Because like I said, I tried to be invested in Ronda. I tried to be invested in Riddle, and it took me forever. And I really like him. But Ronda, I just don't buy it. If she's going to be this UFC thing, then yeah, you have the UFC thing and let her just plow for everyone. Don't make her an underdog. She's not an underdog if she's the baddest woman on the planet. It defeats the object of having that nickname. Like Brock was a beast, and for the time that he was a beast, he acted like a beast. Like it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Yeah, I feel like they executed it better. The same thing that they want for Ronda was executed better as Shayna Baszler in NXT. Like she
Shayna
felt
Baszler
more of a...
was so much better. I think out of Ronda and Shayna is the better wrestler.
Yeah, I would agree, but Shayna's had a lot more kind of time and coaching, I would say. But
then that goes into the case of just because Ronda was a name, they had to put her out quicker. I'm not saying she should have gone to NXT, but
I don't think she's been bad though. I mean, we talked about Logan Paul last night, how he's just signed. And that, there is a risk that is going to annoy people on the roster going, oh, like, yeah, you can do these things, but you're not exactly, and he did, for what he did as a celebrity, it was fantastic, but he's not coming in as the new Seth Rollins, is he? He kind of matches like that, but it's going to take a while to kind of adapt to new things. And maybe I guess that's what your frustrations are with Ronda, that she needs to now move into different kind of, but it's hard when you want to portray a certain style as well. So yeah, it's almost a rock and a hard place. But
the way I'd look at it, like Ronda, when we had Ken Shamrock or Steve Blackman, for example, those two alone had this ability to do a wrestling match. Like it was literally a wrestling match. With Ronda, it's mat-based wrestling. Like, because she's got a judo background. So she's done everything in UFC, and now she's doing it in a WWE ring. Like, that's literally the difference. Like, do you know what I mean? And I just don't see that difference. A prime example would be Taz. He had all the suplexes, the human suplex machine, and all that sort of stuff. And Kurt Angle, they were able to transition and turn it into wrestling. For some reason,
I guess you're going to see more DDTs and leg drops. I just want
to see her wrestle and not just throw someone over her shoulder every 2 minutes and roll through. And like, I get it's beautiful to look at, but I don't care. Like,
it's kind of unrealistic as well that everyone would suddenly be able to wrestle her style, and that's the kind of match you'd have. I know she come from a world where it's mixed martial arts and mixed styles, but yeah, she's like very in a box in that sense. I get what you're saying there, but
and that's what frustrates me, and that's why I can't invest in her when I'm seeing the same thing over and over. The stuff she done last night is the same stuff she done when she went against Triple H and Stephanie with Kurt Angle. Like that was like 4 or 5 years ago. But I'm past that. I want to see her progress and not do the same stuff. I'm bored.
Okay, right. The match ends, and pretty much straight away, we get the music hit of Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan comes down, cashes in the Money in the Bank. Very excited, jumping up and down. I get excited as well. And it was a great moment. I was fearful when Ronda caught a leg basically and went into the ankle lock. And I thought, oh no, this is not what you guys want to do. Like, you don't want her to fail to cash in on Ronda. This is going to backfire terribly on Ronda if you want to keep her as a babyface. So thankfully it didn't happen that way, and Liv worked her way around it. It makes Liv look cool because she beat someone impressive. But then Ronda at the end, in some sense, I liked her kind of embracing her, going, you know what? You had me. You got me. But it kind of felt a bit fake because I don't think Ronda in the UFC would have been as like, there's showing humility and going fair play, but then she got out of the ring, it was like as if she did not care that she lost the title. There's a fine line to tread between going, you had me, you deserve it, like, but then it was like a real quick switch of like, see you later guys, I'm getting out of here, tapping the fans, woohoo, it felt like she was basically being like, well, which is a bit too far for me. Also, the Liv thing, don't get me wrong, I'm happy it happened. I think it was cool. The Liv thing worries me in the sense that, and we're going to get into this, I'm sure, the fact that the women can't seem to hold the briefcase for too long. It's a knee-jerk thing. She wins it straight away. Happens in the same night. We're all kind of sick and tired of that now. But for like 9 months, they did it. And again, I'm not going to go into it too much. Go back and check our other episodes here as well if you want to go to Liv Morgan matches and hear us talk about it there, where it was like, surely they're going to pull the trigger. I'm worried fans don't care anymore. I'm starting to not care anymore. Oh, this could be it. I'll invest again. I'm not sure. That went on for ages. And we mentioned earlier on in the Money in the Bank match that she got all the cheers and it was evident it was still there. But did we really need to waste both those things in one night? Like, could we not have had it happen in the future where she finally, like, it meant the Money in the Bank thing didn't feel as, like, you waited like 9 months, maybe 12 months it's been, to not give her a moment. And then you gave her 2 in one night. You kind of suffocated both moments. I feel like if there was ever a time to spread it out, it's when you didn't pull the trigger for way too long. And then you did it. You went bang, bang in the same night. Cactus jacked it. Like, what the heck's going on?
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. Do you know what? I really, the minute Liv got that, my initial reaction was she's going to get a Dolph Ziggler moment. Like, she's going to have that moment like Ziggler did. You was there for that, right?
I was indeed, yeah. Good one.
And it would have been that moment. So it's a build of, okay, she's going for this. She's still got a briefcase. She's teasing it. She's still doing these feuds. And all this. And even if it was a case of she just can't now, she's won that title, the briefcase, and she just can't win a match. And it's that case of building and building and building. So she just cashes in and then bang, the crowd just lift the roof off the place. That's what I wanted to happen. Something like that, like a proper, just such a huge moment that it's bigger than the PLE itself.
Yeah.
And instead, we got her winning the Money in the Bank, which was a huge pop, then cashing in on Ronda. And I was like, great. All right, she's cashed in. She's now the champion. That she gets her moment. But she had this really awkward hug and kind of, can I have my title? Like it. And Ronda was just holding it. And
oh, yeah, sorry, there you go. See you later.
I was so confused. And I was like, she's just going? Like, is Ronda going to turn heel at this moment?
Exactly. That was another kind of fear, not fear, but like, I guess thought, really, that could happen. But again, they suffocated the first moment. Look at Twitter. It blew up. People that work there, Kevin Owens, people that don't work there anymore, people that are kind of in between, who knows what's going on. For example, Naomi breaking Twitter silence to kind of congratulate clearly with a green heart. Like, it was the talk of the town, you could say. And then they did it again an hour later. Like, let the first one breathe. Like, it's just another feels like knee-jerk, boom, we got to do it. Because we ain't doing it with the men's. Because I personally think, again, there's still a chance that that'll be a failed cash-in. But just let her, if that's going to be the case, and I think this happened last year as well, it's like, but you've got rid of one now. Like, slow it down. Like, slow this. That you've got 2. Like, yes, sometimes it means do one early and one late, but it's always seems to be the women's one. And I guess it all depends on where they're going next with Liv and the championship. But like, she could have benefited from, yes, they waited ages, 9 months, 6 months ago. She should have, 4 or 5 months, whatever it was now, should have won the Rumble and a kind of 3-month build of being a Rumble winner and then winning at Mania. I think would have been a good idea. You could have done the same thing here. Yes, it took too long to get to that first point of Money in the Bank, but we got there. Now they gave her 3-4 months of being Miss Money in the Bank. Why do we need to blow it all with this? But hey, they did. But again, that sounds like I don't like the fact she's champ. I'm happy for her. I think she does deserve it. You deserve a chance ringing around the arena.
100%.
Like, I completely agree with that. But it doesn't take away the fact that you kind of did. It's like they were doing a little marathon sprint for about, what's a marathon? 26 miles, 25 miles of it. They're doing a little light jog. For the last mile, they just,
runs like Usain Bolt.
Usain Bolt with it. Like, it's just, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
And
we could have
with
paced
someone
this
like,
a lot better.
With someone like Liv as well, it could have been a case of elimination chamber's gone. But as an example, it could have been elimination chamber was happening. So let's say, for example, Liv was in that match, right? Or a TLC or something. She was in a match. She got eliminated. Or, elimination chamber will make more sense. So let's say she's in the match. She got eliminated. She rolls outside. She's got a briefcase. Teases a cash in. Goes backstage. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, she would have been perfect to do these teases because every time someone come out, she comes out, the crowd pops. As she goes to cash in, someone hits her. It's a failed cash in, but she's trying. Do you know what I mean? And it's that build, and we finally get that. Okay, it took 9 months for her to finally get this bloody briefcase and this moment. Now let's make it wait even longer. So when she gets it, it's huge. It's that Dolph Ziggler moment, and I thought that's what we were going to get.
Which again, we kind of got it with the Money in the Bank victory itself because it took so long to get it. But then, like, you've now got time to slow it down. Like, we were like, speed it up. And now we're like, no, but now slow it down. You're speeding it up too much. What are you doing? You know? It was, man, frustrating. But again, you know, props to Liv. She does deserve. She's got herself in a position. Someone mentioned it last night in the build-up. Massively improved on the Rustler, one of the most improved wrestlers that they've got. And yeah, it's been absolutely great seeing her rise. And finally, yeah, they pulled the trigger. They might have banged it, as I said earlier on. But at least we got there in the end with some sort of celebration and appreciation for Liv Morgan from not only the fans, but, you know, her peers and clearly the office, so to speak, for giving this moment in the first place.
I mean, look, I'm happy, regardless of how they done it. I'm happy she won Money in the Bank. Becoming a women's champion, fantastic. Like, she finally hit the top of the mountain.
Exactly. Happy with both things.
What I really liked was Ronda was kind of walking back. Liv was still standing in the ring. And I don't think it kind of not sunk in, but I don't think the moment was still real to her because she was standing in the ring. The camera was on her and she just didn't know what to do. Like, I think she finally made it. Like, she got that championship. And I think she was just so overcome with emotions that I just don't think she knew how to react. Because normally it's like, if it's Mania or if you win the Rumble, point at the sign. If you win,
you have some sort of direction.
You have a direction. Yeah. She just won it, and all she was doing was hugging it and just taking everything in. So we had that moment where she just soaked in the crowd, and it was weird because not everyone gets to do that. Do you know what I mean? At that time, so she got to soak in this whole crowd emotion of her getting it. So, you know, what a moment for her in herself. You know, so it was nice to see. Like, it was nice to see her actually have that moment with the crowd and enjoy it. Which is great. You don't always get that.
Yeah, and I've got to say, you know, enjoyed by the fans as well. Yeah, I did enjoy what I saw. I just wish, you know, we kind of did it a little bit differently. But hey, I'm happy with what we got at the moment. We don't know where it's going to go next, but at this very moment in time, I'm happy that she's done both those things. Very, very cool to see. Going to quickly get to a comment before we wrap up on this segment from Will Ready Sport Ready. Thank you again for joining us. As a massive Liv fan, I was so happy she's new champ. It was so good. And first, I thought she was going to tap out to Ronda. Thank God that didn't happen. Exactly that. We mentioned it earlier on. It was kind of teased. Thankfully, they didn't do it. But yeah, definitely keep your comments coming. Those watching live, those watching on demand. Let us know what you thought of this specific moment and of Money in the Bank as a PLA in general. Right. So next up, we are going to move on to, well, the men's Money in the Bank. It's the last one to talk about here.
It is.
We've got the men's Money in the Bank. And of course, we still don't have the graphic there with Madcap Moss. But then again, it doesn't matter because he added someone else to it anyway. Now, I'm sure if you've seen Money in the Bank, you know exactly who that is. And there's no need to be coy with it. We know it's Theory, and Theory goes on to win. But what we've got here is a very, very good Money in the Bank match, I thought. Quite fun. A lot happening in the match as well. That was kind of, you know, worth talking about. And we're going to go through some of the main points here anyway when it comes to the high spots and stuff like that. But first of all, we do get that big announcement that Theory has been added to the match. Now, I've got to say, it was a little bit uncomfortable for me seeing the way they did it because it felt like it was going to be something much, much bigger. We kind of said last night on the build-up show that Theory, weirdly enough, feels like he needs to be in this match, but he's got a title hanging on him. And it's really strange because none of us in our predictions did go for a bonus point. And I said it to Dan earlier off air, but this is the kind of event where you should be doing it because this is the event where they take people out of matches, they put people in, they cash briefcases in and stuff like that. So it's a great one to do bonus points on because it is actually quite likely. And they did it twice here. We cashed in with the women's, and on the men's, they have a surprise entrance. So yeah, none of us went for that. And I did feel like it was meant to be bigger than it was. Although I do agree, like I said, Theory being in this match completely makes sense. The way they did it, it felt a bit anticlimactic for me. It felt like it should have been someone else. I'm glad Theory was in it, but again, it should have been. And, you know, we could add stuff backstage. We could have had people kind of like Theory demanding to be put in it. He could have taken someone out of the match. There could have been a lot going on here, but sadly, they just went straight ahead with it. What did you think, Rob, of Theory's introduction to the match?
Oh man, the minute PS come out and they made an announcement we were going to raise the stakes, I was like, it's Theory. We know it's Theory. His music should have just come out and they should have just announced it on the commentary. We knew it was happening. Do you know what would have made that moment even better?
Go on.
As controversial as it is, Vince coming out and saying it.
Yeah, I think so as well. Because why is Adam Pearce so into this idea? You know, you know, the only reason why he would be is because it's like, guys, you don't know who I've just signed. You're all going to be so pleased with me. Or, like the only way to do it the heel way was if like Theory kind of they built up towards it, so we knew. Like you say, you knew fair enough straight away. I just hoped it would be someone, I guess is what I'm saying, you know?
The thing was, the minute he come out, was you like, well, who's it going to be? Was it not obvious it was Theory? Like to you, like...
No, I don't know. I was thinking it'd be someone else. Quickly go to the comments here. Will Ready Sport Ready again. Thank you for joining us and commenting again. This was awful booking by WWE. Not a good idea to put Theory in a match and win. I knew he was winning from his announced match. Not his fault. He's great. It's Vince and Bruce. A lot of comments about Vince and Bruce lately. Should have been Riddle or Seth. Much better. A better storyline. Do you guys agree? Now, I said last night in the build-up show, I think whoever does it is having a failed cash-in because there's confusion with the titles, whether or not they're separate titles or not. Yeah. I think it's too confusing to kind of explain with a cash-in. But that being said, I do think Theory being put in a match was a good idea. And I do think him winning is a good idea. And I think this is where people are differing as far as not thinking it was that much of a good show. But I do agree with Will there, though. It was bit obvious once he was in the match, he was winning the bloody match, weren't he? Like it was in it for a reason, you know what I mean? So that was a bit strange to me. But I do think him winning is a good thing. Because I don't think he needs, and I mentioned earlier on, yesterday again, like we all thought it was a weird spot. He's that kind of, you know, I always say Money in the Bank, Royal Rumble needs to be that someone breaking through the upper mid card does something. And we mentioned last night as well, you know, Rob, you were saying, yeah, he's been pushed. Yeah, he's clearly the chosen one. But what's he done? Now, already, what he's done within 24 hours later, he's had an incredible match with Lashley, and he's become the Money in the Bank winner. Even if he doesn't cash it in and win, those are some impressive things that we can now build.
Do you want a statistic, by the way?
Go on. I love a stat.
Yeah, obviously, Dan's not here. He's normally the stat guy. Of
course.
But Theory sets a very embarrassing record at Money in the Bank, which is Theory is the first and only superstar to win a Money in the Bank ladder match and lose a championship on the same night.
Yeah, but that's not that bad. I mean, they've done similar before, haven't they? You know, with Seth Rollins cashing in. Yeah. A similar kind of thing.
Yeah, but losing a thing and then
Edge,
going into
fantastic one when Edge lost the title in a chamber, later on got himself in another chamber. So I actually like when they do this stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes it makes it obvious that is a problem there. But
I have a theory, though. I have a theory on theories.
So did WWE, mate. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is my theory, not Austin theory. So at the moment, Theory is the youngest of this, and he's Vince's man, and all this sort of stuff, right? Now, I've done some research. The youngest WWE champion is Brock Lesnar at the age of 25. Austin Theory is 24, and he's now Mr. Money in the Bank. Tell me, Theory needs to cash in on Roman or whoever it is before he's 25 and be the youngest WWE champion. They've got to do that.
You know what? Even if they don't do it, they should make that a storyline. Theory should be saying, I'm going to do that. And he's desperately trying to cash in. And like what you said for Liv earlier, no, let's do that with Theory, where he keeps trying, and it's like, it's too close. Or if I do it now, I'm going to... And he gets away with a briefcase each time. That's what I would like to see, actually. Whenever his birthday is, if we can match this up, I think that would actually be fantastic. I don't think they should pull it off, because I don't think it should be like that. You could do two storylines here. We've still got the whole Roman thing going on. But yeah,
I think clever, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I would like to see that.
I mean, I don't know how. I'll Google when his birthday is. I don't know how old Brock was. He was 25 and however many days.
Yeah.
I'll have a look. I don't know if I'll be able to find it out now, but someone in the comments should your wrestling nerds as much as we
well,
are.
actually, saying that, this is a good time to mention. Actually, we've had a lot of people telling us over the past with this channel that we should do watch-alongs and reviews of classic WWE pay-per-views as they were known back then. And you just mentioned one, which we are actually going to try and do. Now, we haven't got dates locked in just yet, guys, but just a little announcement here. We are going to do a watch-along for SummerSlam 2002, that very event and that very moment, really, that Rob was just talking about, actually. And not only that, because it was 20 years since this great pay-per-view event, it's a great time to do a watch-along for it and a review. We are also going to do, what have we got another anniversary for? The 30th anniversary of a SummerSlam, and that, of course, being SummerSlam 1992, and it's definitely apt at the moment with Clash at the Castle. Of course, it's not SummerSlam, sadly, that we're getting here in the UK, but we are getting a major event for the first time since that very event as well. So those two things, I would say put in your diary, but we haven't got dates set for them yet, but they are going to be in the next few weeks, hopefully. So definitely make sure you stick around to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel and subscribe, because they're going to be a load of fun as well. If you want to see an example of what we've done before, we did do a Crown Jewel watch along, and we did do because it was an Elimination Chamber, because they were more reasonable times for us here in the UK. And we've also done the one of the Undertaker movie with the New Day that got released on Netflix as well. So check those out to whet your appetite. But yeah, thank you for everyone that's been requesting, and let us know in the future what you would like to see as well. But we are definitely looking forward to talking about those two things there. Now, Rob, have you got your facts in order?
No, not yet, man. I'm still trying to.
I gave you time, Rob. I gave you time. I can't possibly shit out more videos at the moment. I got a lot of things to promote. Don't get me wrong, but I can't really put the audience through that. But of course, let's
I'm trying. I mean,
speaking of trying, we can try on Seth Rollins' suits. Everybody, check that video out as well on the channel. And of course, we've got loads of interviews. I'm not going to go through them all. But check out what we've got here on the channel. Now, Rob, I gave you a few more seconds there. Have you got the extra information that we need?
No. The thing that's annoying is it says the youngest champion is Brock Lesnar, who won a title at the age of 25, while the oldest champion is Vince McMahon, who's 54. Cena holds the record for the most reigns at 13. So I'm trying. I don't know. I might have to go back to that show. And because obviously they're going to talk about this age and this many months and so, because they just say 25, obviously for a proper statistic.
Yeah, but we can check. All right, Brock Lesnar. What's his birthday? Right, here we go. It's how you should have done it, Rob. All right, I'm going to do your work for you. Right. Brock Lesnar's birthday is 12th of July. Very handy, quite close to SummerSlam, which I think was on the 26th of August. Or 25th of August. I don't know that off by heart. It's only because we're doing research for the show that we're going to do. 25th of August. So that was about a month. It was about a month away from being 26, right?
All right. So what would you say? 20?
He was 25 and 11 months.
Yeah. Same
yeah,
date,
let's just say that.
Yeah.
Oh, Austin Theory also born quite close to that period in August So he as of August the 2nd, he hits the 25th year in his life, and he will therefore. Wait, is that how it works? I'm getting confused now.
No, because you roll around through.
25th anniversary of WrestleMania type crap when it wasn't the 25th anniversary. It was just WrestleMania 25. Anyway, my point is, he's going to be 25 on the 2nd of August. So that means he's then got 11 months, pretty much 11 months. So up until the next Money in the Bank kind of
almost,
SummerSlam kind of depends which order they put him in next year. He's got about that. So you've got 11 months, and that ties up very well with the fact he has 12 months with a briefcase. So, man, I hope they do it. That's a good idea. And I've got myself worked up and
excited. If it does happen, you know who,
But you know what, Rob? It probably won't.
All that time and investment for that, for nothing.
Well, right. Anyway, let's get on to the match itself, because we kind of deviated from it there. But hey, everyone in the chat, let us know, what did you think of the event? What did you think of the match? Either on demand or live with us at the moment as we record this as well. So let's go back into the match. Let's go through the comparators again. We've got Madcap Moss, who is grayed out there because WWE didn't send us the updated graphic, and then there's no point because they updated it again, surely, with Theory anyway. So we've got Theory, Madcap Moss, Sami Zayn, Sheamus, Omos, Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, and Riddle. Quite a stacked field there, to be honest. Now, firstly, I just want to mention something that I've never mentioned before, and that's Drew McIntyre's theme song. It sounds like the theme song to Fought by Odd. It just really gets me going. I keep thinking Melinda Messenger and Dirty Den's going to run out and Jack the Door and all this stuff. But
the door.
It's quite that's a little niche reference. I heard a little bit of a glitch there. Niche reference for you if you're not from the UK, but if you are, hopefully you'll know what I'm talking about. Anyway, Fort Boyard comes out, and then Theory gets added to the match, and then early on we got the lads as what's his face? Pat McAfee is trying to call him. The lads in Drew and Sheamus going against Theory quite early on. Of course, they can't really kind of sustain that for too long because they don't like each other either. Now, Omos gets battered with the ladders. And later on, he comes back and has a massive spot himself. So I might as well put this in here as well. But people have kind of referred to it as similar as a shield bomb. I don't think it was. It was more just like it was just
they just turned him into a lawn dart.
Yeah, it was. But it was, mate. It was fantastic. Probably one of the best one of the best we've got to keep this big man down spots that I've ever seen. Ever. I thought it was fantastic. Really well executed. And yeah, exactly what you need from Omos in a match like this.
Yeah, it was so good. I think the first thing they done with the knocking him out and all this kind of stuff, all that, the kicks and punches and nothing was working. Finally getting him down, throwing the ladders on top of him. We've kind of seen it before with Big Show. Never did I think you were going to get another like 7 men picking up Omos and literally just Hail Marying him through an announce table. I just didn't expect it. It literally got thrown like a lawn dart. And
yeah,
what made it even better?
It's quite graceful as well, like the way it went. It was quite smooth.
It was just the fact that he landed and didn't move. Like it showed that they just took everything out of him.
And the table split perfectly as well. Like crashed at the right time. It wasn't an awkward spot. Good. It was a great spot.
It was so well done. I think the only thing they could have done to add more insult to injury would have been throw more ladders on top. And chairs and whatever else, but it wasn't needed. That would have just been a way to kind of like bury the giant as they kind of.
And they've done that already on the other side of the ring about 10 minutes earlier. So
other than that though, it was fantastic. I absolutely loved that moment. The match itself was so good. There was a lot going on, and I think the bar was set very high with that tag team match. So anything after that, they had to deliver.
Yeah.
My thing was do you think it was always the plan for Theory to be a part of that match, or was it added later? Because it seemed really well done if it was a last minute call, the way they done it.
Yeah, I would agree. And I do think it wasn't always the plan. I think we mentioned last night in the build up again. If you didn't join us, please go back and listen to it. Of course, we were hyping up a show that was yet to happen, but we do also go into some interesting topics there as well. But we're basically saying that surely it was Cody, right? And that is the rumor still going around that it was Cody and that they just probably come up with a plan B. And I do think it probably was to have someone cash in like Seth and fail and then thought, you know what, we can do something special here with Theory. And I think that's where they've gone with it. Sometimes you walk into these happy accidents. Now, I still think he shouldn't cash in and be successful. And I like the idea we've just kind of touched on there as well. But for me, and again, I won't go into too much because definitely go back and listen to the debate on the build-up about it. But yeah, for me, the person who got the Money in the Bank briefcase, it was about not being successful for me. It needs to be a failure this year because of the Roman thing is too important and it's too messy with the 2 titles. But yeah, to answer your question, I don't think it was always Theory. It was Cody. I don't think it was Theory up until recently. And then they suddenly put him in there because they thought it was a good little switcheroo opportunity. So I really did enjoy that. But yeah, I do think they've done it on the fly.
Yeah, it was good though, man. Like I absolutely loved it. The spots were great. The heavy hitting moments. Just
Butch interfered. Felt like Lita and Rhino and Spike Dudley.
Yeah, that was
Butch
great.
interfered. Madcap Moss getting powerbombing Zayn onto the ladder. Brutal. Yeah. The flying bro onto everyone. Go on. RKO. I know. There's so many things to mention. Sorry.
There was Riddle's RKO or RK Bro on Seth. That was great. Like, and do you know what I really liked? Sami Zayn was absolutely fantastic. He played his role so well. Everyone.
There was a part where I did think he was going to do it. That's another thing as well. These matches do if they're done correctly. There was no way I thought Zayn was going to do it, but like they can build that suspense and drama.
You had you thinking it. And what made me laugh though was everyone was getting out of the ring and attacking Omos and all this stuff. Zayn hid behind the turnbuckle like corner and just snuck in and slid in like a like a little weasel that he is, and it was great, absolutely great, because he climbed up and he done what needed to be done, got knocked off the ladder again, and then rolled out again, and appeared when he needed to, and that's what I like. And what else was fantastic was we had all these people in such a rush to climb the ladder, and we didn't have this really slow climbing of the. They took a leaf out of Dolph Ziggler's book and was like, "I'm on the ladder. I'm going to go as quick as I can because I want to get," which is what we need. Like, it doesn't always have to be slow, and it was done well. Okay, granted, Theory won. I said to you in the build up, if there was ever a person that needs to be in this match because they're going to do something with this Money in the Bank briefcase, it needed to be Theory. And I think, as controversial as it is, it was the right decision, because who else are you going to give it to? If you give it to Riddle to lose, then the babyface loses. If you give it to Seth, Seth loses. Like, he can bounce back from losses with Cody. We've seen it. If someone like Theory loses, it's a big deal.
Yeah. So exactly what we were saying last night again. Like, so it wasn't that I wanted Seth to win. So let's go through our predictions, right? I said it would be Seth. So did Lucas, so did you, Rob, and Dan said Riddle. Now we'll go back to Riddle, and I always say, like, Seth isn't the description of Money in the Bank winner for me. Like I say, it needs to be breaking. Now it's easier when you got two. One of them could be on the women's, maybe not in the men's, or the men's can do it because the women's is doing something else. They've got a legend winning, whatever it is, But ideally, I always want at least one of them to be a kind of breaking into the upper echelon. Now Riddle is that star, so much so that he probably doesn't need it at the moment. He's already quite there. Theory, ironically, was a little bit below that because they kind of push him into the future, but they haven't really done much with him other than the title reign. That kind of it was title reign, but come on, let's be real. The US title
wasn't the greatest.
Isn't always kind of presented that way. So you've got these two sides of it. But when we did our predictions, Theory weren't in it. So I didn't want it to be Riddle, want it to be wasted as the moment that meant nothing. So for me, it meant the next best thing is give it to someone that it doesn't really matter on. Give it to Seth. So I think that's why I went for Seth, not because I wanted Seth to win it, but I think Seth would have done well in winning it. Bragging, losing, plays a part in his character. He can move on, doesn't damage the world title situation, doesn't really damage the briefcase either, and doesn't damage Seth. So that would have been the way to do it. Now, I do think, although Theory is in that kind of different position, he is in that breaking through period, he can afford to lose it as well, because he's a heel. So it would be okay. And again, we've kind of touched on Rob's great idea for how they could do that. I agree. This is who should have won. At the time, it was hard to predict because we didn't know Theory was in it. That field of 7 people, I thought Seth should have won because of what I think they're going to do in the future with the world title, or maybe should do with the world title, rather than it's not me saying, like, usually the formula is built for someone like Riddle, and I think it should be Riddle usually, but last night wasn't that time. So I'm glad they kind of hooked us around it and found another way to do it by doing it with Theory, and you kind of get the best of both worlds there. So a heel that can cash in and lose in an exciting way that doesn't damage him, and also a up-and-comer that benefits from winning it in the first place, because he can hold it for 6-7 months, and we kind of at least get the benefit of him holding it even if he loses it.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, I couldn't have put it any better.
Thanks,
I love the fact that it. What I like is when a heel has the briefcase, because as much as you want them to cash in and foul, it's a shock factor if they cash in and win. And I think if someone like Theory, that's even bigger, because if he loses, you think, he's great, he's lost it. But what more of the thing to?
What if he does do it? Yeah,
more?
Especially if it is Reigns. As much as I think,
Exactly.
Maybe he's not the one, not just yet. Anyway. But man, could you imagine the shock?
Imagine the heat.
Because it would be like, there's no way. Oh yeah, the heat would be unreal. I mean,
exactly.
Again, people aren't exactly happy with this. Like, and I'm not sure if it's because he's a heel or because people just don't like him or what. But I think it was the right decision. Yeah. But yeah, let us know what you think, guys, in the comments down below and on the live stream as well, on demand. However you're watching this, we really do appreciate it. Please subscribe, check out more of our content, as I mentioned already. check us out on Twitter. You see it down the bottom there, scrolling through at RN Pro Wrestling, because we had some great interactions last night when we were live tweeting the show as well. So yeah, we're definitely going to be doing a lot more of this. Of course, we always do our recap and reviews. So I say that, but we didn't do one for Hell in a Cell. And of course, our build-up shows on the nights of PLEs and our preview and predictions. Before we go off air, I do want to mention. Firstly, Rob, is there anything else you want to say about this match specifically before we move?
No,
on?
man, I'm good.
Cool. Right. So I want to mention before we go off air, unlike how Money in the Bank did it as they went off air. I don't know if you've even seen this, but did you see Corbin attacking Pat McAfee?
Pat McAfee. Yeah.
Right.
SummerSlam match.
Firstly, wicked presentation. The way he grabbed him from behind, he looked like a beast, right? I thought it was fantastic. I actually would have done it so that you didn't come in and do your end of days and you made it look like it was an attack from a fan or something like that, and you weren't meant to be there and everybody's security's getting rid of you. It kind of went a bit hokey in wrestling when he gets in and does the end of days, even though it looked cool and impactful. I think it would have been better, and I think it would have been better as at the end of the show. The fact the graphic was up, the version WWE put online was a network exclusive, which they never are, or WWE.com exclusive, because we see him on other kind of areas, and we'll probably see it in a promo package eventually as well to explain this. But that being said, I thought it was fantastic. And for me, because I actually tweeted as it went off air under my account that it was confusing that Pat said that throwaway line. Now I think I know why. So he said, what did he say? Let me find it. I can't remember now. It's basically on the lines of, SummerSlam, basically. That Theory would basically, it kind of made it sound like Theory would challenge at SummerSlam. Let me just get the quote back up. Sorry. So I said, the awkward fade out with Pat McAfee outright saying, look for him to cash it in at SummerSlam about Theory and the Money in the Bank briefcase. Really weird. And I thought it was a weird thing for Pat to say. But now maybe it's because he knew something else was about to happen and he just had to say something. Because I felt like that line was a mistake. He shouldn't have said that. It kind of leads you in this confusing direction like they did with the WrestleMania tie to it as well. And now, like, if it is going to be a surprise or he tries to do it, it kind of, maybe they're going to go with that. Maybe on Raw, Theory's going to make it known that's what he's going to do. But it felt really weird. But anyway, it led to Pat being attacked by Corbin. I think if you take that line out of it, and you keep the cameras rolling, because again, the version they show has the little graphic at the bottom, and we've loved it when NXT did this in the past. Oh, show's over, everybody turn it off. Hold on, something's happened after the graphic, the copyright graphic. And that's what they should have done with this, in my opinion. Now, you could argue the Theory thing is much bigger. Corbin's lost stock in recent years, but if you're going to do it, and the way they did it, it was shocking. It would have put Corbin over massively. To end the show on Corbin being kicked out of the arena for having attacked Pat McAfee, because it was chaos. It felt chaotic. It felt real, almost like the Nexus, that kind of exciting vibe is what they should have ended the show on. They should have just gone like, and the graphic, because it literally, the clip ends with Michael Cole being like, what are you doing? Get out of here. What, this is chaos. That's how the end of the show should have been. The show should have ended with Pat on the floor, Corbin being chased off, and chaos. It's a real shame that they kind of wasted that, in my opinion. What do you feel about this? What do you feel about Corbin and what I basically just said there?
So not so happy Corbin.
Yeah,
is how I'm going to call him from now on.
Nice one.
He absolutely loved it. Look, aside from how they done the production value of it at the end of the show, the only reason I feel like they didn't add it to the end of the pay-per-view or the PLE is because I don't think they wanted to shine anything away from Theory winning
moment.
the Theory moment, which I get and I appreciate. But man, it was so good. Everything about it. I would go as far to say that I don't think Michael Cole knew that was happening, because his reaction was so organic. Like
really
his
good,
body movement, the way he sold it, Pat selling the end of days. And then what I loved was Corbin shouting at him and just screaming at him when he was on the mat. And Theory just overlooking like, I don't care.
Yeah, okay.
They've already, they've had a feud. So it was like, Theory wasn't going to help. And it was great.
I don't think, absolutely I get that idea that Theory could have been like overshadowed, but like what a exciting moment to just end on, it would have been great. Again, they did it for the people in the audience. They got to see it. Great. Now, the only thing that worries me about it, but also makes it exciting and intriguing, is the fact that it was someone from the crowd. Like we've seen people attack wrestlers, right? We've seen people wear Rey Mysterio masks and jump in, and Sting's done the same thing himself. But to attack the announcer, it was what I think it does it is because for years I've looked at the announcers and thought that when there's someone playing up in the back, I wonder if they throw stuff. I wonder if they're annoying. I wonder if they can hear their comments. I wonder if they're annoyed by the bunny ears. Like all these kind of things. The fact is, someone could attack one of those announcers. Now, I don't even like putting it out there because I would hate for that to happen for real. But that's why the moment felt so special, because it was like, oh, what is going on? Yes, it's a wrestler and it's an announcer that's going to be in a feud. But so it's worrying in that sense. It could kind of give ideas to idiots. We've seen wrestling fans do some stupid things over the years. But that's why it was so exciting. Same as when you get people jumping in from the crowd and anyway with a hood, it turns out to be a wrestler. You could say that kind of sparks the idea as well. But that's why it felt so exciting. It felt so fresh. And for me, it's such a shame they didn't end the show on that, because it would have been such a great moment to finish with. But hey, we're finishing on a high. We're including it on our version of the show because it was a great ending. And it's just a shame that we didn't see it that way. And I think a lot of people probably are going to sleep on it now. They're going to miss it. And the effect of it, the impact of it, is kind of going to be lost on a few people, I think. But yeah, what a great moment to end. A very good pay-per-view, I would say. A really enjoyable one, a very noteworthy one. I mentioned it at the start. Might not have been what everybody wanted to see as far as storylines. Some of these, I'm still not sure where they're going to go with it. But very noteworthy. And that's all you kind of ask for, really, that you're entertained and you have a good time watching a wrestling event. And yeah, I definitely did do that last night. Great time as well on the build-up shows we mentioned earlier on. Great time today on the recap and review, and we will be back very soon doing all of our SummerSlam content, of course, but we're going to try and actually bring out more for you in the coming weeks as well. So keep your eyes peeled on this channel. Best way to do that, of course, subscribe and ding-a-ling on that bell as well. A few things just before we get out of here. Just want to mention as well, we've kind of touched on it already, but we should be doing a watch-along for SummerSlam 2002 and another for 1992 as well. So definitely stick around for that. But now there's one thing to mention before we get out of here, Rob, and of course, it's why we do this, baby. It's the predictions table. As you can see, this is how it was just before the PLE started. This is as of last night. We got Dan on 12 points, Lucas on 11. Rob, you are training behind myself on 7. I'm on 9.
I'm taking the Arsenal approach, starting off slow and then progressing quickly at the end.
All right, then I see. And then moving on to how it is as things stand at the moment. Dan has bumped up to 16 points. I've overtaken. That is it. I'm in second position now. I'm on 14 points. Lucas down to third in 13. And Rob, you're still trailing, mate. You're on 11 points. How do you feel about that?
I'm all right. As I said, slow and steady wins the race, man. I'm good.
We'll see. You do hold the title at the moment. You are the reigning defending champion. I'm the champion from the previous year, but who knows? Maybe this season we'll get. Yeah, I know. Look, mate, I got mine. If we want to bring him out,
mine's on display, pal.
Hey, mate, I just don't have a shelf, right? But yeah, it could be either of us. It could also be a new champion in.
It'd be interesting if it was Lucas. Just saying.
It would be interesting, yeah.
Knowing that Dan hasn't got one would be funny, you know.
But yeah, they basically could win it again. What we do here is run through a season. We go WrestleMania to WrestleMania. Speaking of Dan, though, before we get out of here, we're just going to play his video of his thoughts. It's just a little briefing here of what he thought of the pay-per-view, the PLE in general. We'll have a quick reaction to that, and then we'll wrap things up just there. So here's Dan. If you don't know, if you weren't on our stream yesterday, Dan is away in Spain on holiday, dodging the camera. We're trying to dodge naked people apparently by the pool yesterday because we don't want to get taken down and have issues with our YouTube or anything like that. But here we go. Dan, is he going to dodge the naked people this time?
Yeah, thoughts on Money in the Bank 2022. Liv Morgan winning, obviously that was something that I'd predicted was going to happen, but yeah, happy nonetheless. I thought it was a really smart thing to do to have her win it, but having her cash in straight away again is not something that we're fans of, really. The same night cash-ins are really, really overdone. I thought both the women's matches were okay, did what they needed to do. Natty versus Ronda was a whole lot better than it had any right to be. For me, match of the night was the Usos versus Street Profits. That was just an incredible showcase of tag team wrestling. Theory and Lashley, obviously, Scott, you were the only one that correctly predicted Lashley was going to win. Yeah, I don't think anyone would have predicted Theory to be Mr. Money in the Bank coming out of this. So yeah, it's a bit of a shock, really, that one. But yeah, interesting to see what they do with it now. Also interesting to note that the angle that happened when they went off the air with Corbin hitting the end of days on Pat McAfee, setting up that for SummerSlam. So yeah, take care, guys, and I will see you soon.
Brilliant. All right. Thanks for Dan for sending that in. Just a few things to touch on there. Obviously, he agreed with mostly what we said there. It was a shocker to see Theory. No one would have guessed that. But again, it's one of those things that makes sense once you see him in it. As he mentioned, he seemed to really enjoy that Natalya and Ronda Rousey match. Yeah, it was there was something else I was going to say that he mentioned there, but it's kind of lost me. Anything you want to say in response to Dan there, mate?
Yeah, was he talking quietly or was he trying
I think you know what it's like when you're recording, there's people around.
I
can, it's like it's held at ransom. I wonder what was going on. You know what it was? It was that woman with her boobs out again. So he was probably trying to he was scared he was going to get her in shot. So fair play to Dan. Thanks for sending that in. I'm just trying to look back on my notes there, seeing
he's not looking very tanned, is he?
He's been there a few days, to be fair, as well. Well, maybe it's just the camera. It looks very nice, though. That's
Dan needs to look a bit more sun-kissed.
He does. What, like the popcorn? Looking at my notes, he obviously mentioned that the tag match was just incredible as well. And again, we've already kind of touched on that already. But yeah, match of the night there for Dan. And I think in some sense, probably match of the night for most people. Right, that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you very much for watching this stream. Again, thank you for those that joined on the build-up and then came back today as well. We will be back for more content very, very soon. And thank you very much for watching. This has been the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling Podcast. I've been Scott. This one over here has been Rob, or Robney, as we're calling him now. And also, we had Lucas earlier on, and Dan obviously swung by via Spain as well. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you on the next stream.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.